Welcome to Delta Green, a role-playing game of Lovecraftian horror and conspiracy. The secret government program that bears this name confronts unnatural threats at any cost, and Jenny, Craig, and Hjalmar are all agents working for this shadowy force. Just like the American soldiers still stuck in the quagmire that is Afghanistan, our agents have been in the country longer than they ever planned. They expect to be sent home soon, but now they have a mission. Again. Ghati awaits.
Hello listeners and welcome to this special one-shot Red Moon role-playing. We are taking on the role-playing game Delta Green, and we have with us President, Publisher and Managing Editor of Arc Dream, which is the company publishing Delta Green, Shane Ivey. How are you doing, Shane?
I'm great. Thank you very much again for having me.
Very glad to have you here. We've got Craig. How are you doing, Craig?
I'm doing very well. Good evening, listeners.
Awesome. And Jenny, how are you doing?
I'm doing splendidly. Of course.
Well, marvelous. Marvelous. So, we have a little crack team of Delta Green members, and I'm going to hand it straight over to you, Shane, to take us into the game.
All right. So your characters are Dr. Murray is an anthropologist who does a good bit of contract work for the U.S. government, and Special Agent Zinchenko with the FBI, and Miranda Robles, who goes strictly by Robles, who is a CIA clandestine officer, which means when people ask what she does, she generally tells them she works for the Department of State or makes up something else like that. This event takes place several years ago. Your characters have all been stationed for months in Afghanistan, and you're in your regular jobs. Zinchenko works for the FBI in Afghanistan, essentially working in concert with the military and with intelligence to track down alleged terrorists and conduct investigations and gather evidence that can be used in prosecutions. Dr. Murray as an anthropologist is there to advise on cultural issues and historical issues and provide very, very much needed context for the conflicts that are constantly happening. And then Robles is an intelligence officer, a clandestine officer. So she's on the ground investigating and gathering intelligence and tracking down targets and the whole thing like that. So you've been contacted by a case officer that works with you on the side with a group that it calls itself the Program, but you've all been around to have heard the words Delta Green as sort of the secret, genuine name of the organization. And your case officer is the one, the sort of the representative of the program, the only representative that any of you have ever met besides each other. And so when the group has something that needs to be investigated, something that looks like a terrible and horrifying and dangerous, unnatural incursion that's cropped up anywhere in the region, then your case officer gathers you together and sends you off, and so you work together. Kind of, it can be especially for Robles, who runs intelligence teams and assets herself. It can feel a little uncomfortably like being run as somebody else's intelligence assets on these secret operations, which, as you all realize very, very quickly, are completely off the books and are usually you've got some cover story that you're pursuing, but your real job is completely unrelated and therefore illegal and likely to land you all out of careers or in prison for that matter, And so the best you can hope for is that you're saving enough lives in ways that that this minimal exposure is worth it. So right now, you're all on a helicopter. You're bound for a forward operating base, Turner, that's in remote mountains, in the Paktika province of eastern Afghanistan. It's just south of the great Hindu Kush mountain range, near the Pakistan border.
Fob Turner is where Tim Ellis is stationed. Ellis is a CIA clandestine service officer working under the cover of an Army intelligence major. Ellis is also Delta Green. In a photo from a few years ago, Ellis is a serious-looking, clean-cut, and fit Caucasian man about 40 years old. 3 nights ago, Ellis wandered off base and hasn't been seen since. The agents must retrieve Ellis ASAP without attracting any further attention. They cannot let Ellis be captured and interrogated by the Taliban. The agents have the cover of a CIA team that's posing as Army intelligence specialists and civilian advisors. The region around the FOB is occasionally subject to unexplained electromagnetic interference. One of Ellis's objectives was to prevent the phenomenon from drawing outside attention. The agents are to do the same. The agents are not told Ellis's other activities or a larger mission. The FOB's commander, Captain Elliot Byers, has been instructed to provide all reasonable assistance. The agents are not to send queries or sensitive information over any communication channels, encrypted or otherwise. They can use ordinary Army intelligence channels to request extraction from Fob Turner when the mission is complete. Delta Green standing orders apply. Deal with the situation, collect intelligence, save lives, end the threat, whatever it is.
So that's your situation as you're helicoptering into the base. Fob Turner is it's in the mountains. It's this rough, rocky area broken up by steep valleys. It's now the once heavy forests are sparse from years of deforestation. There's a lot of scrub brush and scraggly trees clinging where muddy creeks flow. It's currently summer, so it's hot and thirsty. The base has been in the process of standing down for months. It looks like a sprawling kind of, well squared off village, huts enough to house about 1,000, but there are only about 60 American soldiers remaining on one side of the spread, and then the other side houses about 120 Afghan National Army soldiers who have moved in and are being trained by the Americans to take over. Recently, there's been kind of an uneasy ceasefire with the regional Taliban for the last few months. Things have been peaceful. So as you're setting down, your helicopter sets down. Each of you, crouched over, steps off, carrying your backpacks, your bags. The two of you who often go on paramilitary operations have rifles and body armor and so forth. All three of you have body armor, I should say, but Zinchenko and Robles have rifles if they want them, and so as you step out, there's an officer who comes out to meet you, and as you come away from the helicopter, he introduces himself as Captain Byers, who's in charge of the base. And so he says, "Welcome to Fob Turner." Byers is, he's fit, he's pretty lean, and he looks like he's doing his best to not look harassed by the sudden unwelcome development of this supposed Army intelligence officer just wandering off.
I'm walking up to him. I'm guessing the sort of rotor blades are coming down from the helicopter, so we don't have to shout too much over it. And I shake his hand and I present myself. I'm Dr. Lincoln Murray.
All right. He nods, very matter-of-factly, and shakes hands all around and says, "Well, welcome to Fob Turner. If you'll come with me to my office, I'll show you what we have and what we can do to help and get this resolved as quickly as we can."
I nod firmly at this and remark, "Indeed. The sooner we can get this all sorted, the sooner we can be out of your hair."
Perfect. Thank you. He leads you into a big tent that has the officers. It's sort of the big officers operate headquarters tent, and he has a couple of lieutenants who are on hand, having been notified that you were coming, and they make introductions all around, and so once they offer water, they offer coffee and this tea, whatever you're interested in, and finally Byers sits down at his desk and says, I'll say up front, unfortunately, there's not much that there's not all that much that we can tell you. Ellis kept to himself. Whatever he was, whatever he was doing for Army intelligence, and as he says that, he kind of, gives you all kind of a very subtle side eye that indicates non-verbally that he's virtually certain that there was more to Ellis than Army intelligence. And he says whatever he was doing for Army intelligence, he kept it to himself. And so when he walked off, it wasn't with any warning. It wasn't with any part of any operation, anything like that.
Sorry, Byers, right? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Captain
you don't
Byers,
have...
yes, ma'am.
Yes, Captain Byers, you don't have to worry. We're not here to put your head on a shopping block. We're just here to find Ellis. That is our only target, so you don't have to be worried about anything. We're not at liberty to discuss any intel we have about Ellis and what his mission was, but just know that we don't hold you accountable for it, well, unless information proves that you are, of course, but that shouldn't be a problem, should it?
Very good, ma'am. Well, how can we help?
I sort of look around a little, taking a moment to stretch. I'm a quite well-built man, dark hair, blue eyes, cleanly shaven. Am I approaching my late 40s now? I kind of offer a smile, a friendly one, and say, well, to start with, where's Ellis's things? Where did he usually do his work? Where did he keep his belongings? That sort of thing. Inventory checking.
Yeah, of course. He had a hut to himself. I've had guards on it since he vanished. They've had instructions to leave it alone.
Good man. Exactly what you should have done. Don't worry though, we'll just be going in there to check the paperwork. Boring stuff, believe you me. Again, I smile.
So, as I listen to both of my colleagues, and I've never really gotten used to the just straight-talking military lingo and who's blaming who for what in this, even though I've been working with the CIA and the military for quite a while now. So I sort of look between them, and then I look back to the captain, and I ask, so where did you see him last? You say he wandered off, and that's what the report says, but was it just not there one day, or?
Well, exactly. We just, like I said, we essentially left Ellis to his own devices. We would see him in the officers' mess occasionally, but less and less recently, and so he didn't report to us. It just occurred to Lieutenant Castro here that I think the first that we hadn't seen him in a while, and so we went looking, and he was nowhere to be found. We looked around in the security cameras footage, and the last it showed of him was pacing around outside his hut at 22:58 hours 3 days ago, and then there was a surge of interference from the video signal, which happens here from time to time, and then he was gone.
You have this on video that we can see?
Oh yes, you're welcome to. In fact, he kind of gives a nod to to the other lieutenant, who nods and says we have it ready here for you. We figured you'd want to look at this.
Sorry, could you clarify that? He is gone, like just completely vanished from...
Well, after the interference. So, well, you'll see.
How long does that last for?
Almost a minute. And the one of the lieutenants sort of says yes, 53 seconds.
Very precise amount of time, but to be honest with you, I'm sure it's just a little technical error on your end. Don't worry, of course. We will be looking into it. Now, remind me, Turner, this place is trying to start closing down, yes? What's been the situation lately? I'm guessing no hostile encounters, no enemy movements around here. You're pretty much just getting ready to leave eventually, yes?
Oh, it's been quiet.
That's good. I know a little of the surrounding area. Well, by map anyway. If a gentleman did just want to leave base and go somewhere else, well, where's the closest place they could even get to?
The closest village is Cluj-Kel. It's a village that's occupied by the Kaluj clan that's been here for forever, and Ellis drove out there occasionally in his capacity as an intelligence officer. We have teams that visit them from time to time.
Did you think to send any people there for looking for him?
Well, yes. They said they hadn't seen him.
Do you have full logbooks over who's coming and going here?
Yes, ma'am.
We, of course, want full access to those.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
As they talk, I stand and I look at this TV as he's starting up the video of what happened.
So what it shows is it's a camera that's sort of it's night, and in one corner of the screen that this is a security camera that overlooks a stretch of roadway, so to speak, between two lines of tents, and pointing at the distant perimeter fencing, and so it shows Ellis coming into view, and it looks like smoking a cigarette and kind of pacing, and he looks agitated. It's not a very good image. I mean, it's not close up. You're seeing him from a distance, but
question: does it look like anger, or is he nervous? I think that's I might be able to.
Sure. What is what's your human skill? Your human intelligence skill?
80.
Oh yeah. It doesn't look angry. No, it looks. He looks nervous. He looks like somebody that's got. He looks like somebody that's strung out from stress and has way too much on his mind, and is obsessively worrying over something. With that high a skill, you can discern a lot of that. That feels like the most likely, the most likely read on him.
I see Robles narrowing her eyes as she is observing him, and I raise an eyebrow.
I kind of give you a short nod and just indicate that we'll talk about it later.
After a few minutes, the video feed kind of gets warped. Like if it were running off of a radio signal, you would expect there would probably be a lot of static on the screen, but it's sort of the image kind of warps in place and then warps really severely and it's impossible to make out anything. And then after 53 seconds of that, it comes back to normal, and Ellis is not there anymore.
Well, I guess that's it. Yeah, up and gone.
Well, 53 seconds is enough time for someone to leave.
So did you find anything in his place? I mean, did he any signs of struggle?
No, well, no. It was he had cleaned it thoroughly. The last he was there.
Okay. And the place where he was actually last seen, what we see here, he's pacing back and forth. But did you see any other set of tracks or anything else?
No, nothing like that. No.
Okay. Well, should we go and have a look at his things then? I look at Zichenko, who seemed to think this was the first step.
Just one more question before we go. Were there anyone working closely with Ellis, or anyone that he confided in or was friends with?
Not really. There was there are a couple of enlisted men that helped him out with projects from time to time. Specialist Booker. Bryant is a driver. Booker's a medic, so they drove out with him on village visits here and there.
Very well. Thank you so much for your cooperation.
Oh, of course, my pleasure, ma'am. And he kind of points to Lieutenant Castro, and he says, "Just let the lieutenant here know if you need anything else, and we'll make it happen."
Thank you. And just remember, and I lean over a little and again offer a smile. I know we can't tell you much about the true nature of what we're doing here today, but to be honest with you, a lot of paperwork, if you get my meaning. Don't worry. I'm sure this is going to be a very simple matter, and we'll be out of your hair soon enough.
He kind of nods and says, "Yes, sir, as you say," with a very deliberately non-committal look.
I smile and nod and say, good man. Now, let's go and see where he dwelt. Collect his things at least. Maybe make some sense of this.
So Lieutenant Castro leads you across a short distance across their half of the base to the officers' quarters. It's a long lines of huts, kind of squared off with thin gaps between them, and there are a pair of soldiers stationed outside the entrance to Ellis's hut. There's a sort of a makeshift no admittance sign taped to the door, and so they step aside for the lieutenant and for you, and lieutenant opens the door to let you in and let you look around. Like most of the residential huts, it's the word hut can be misleading. I mean, it's got it's a wood frame. It's very sturdy. It's Spartan, and so inside there's there's a carefully made bunk in one corner. There's a desk that doesn't have anything on it now, and underneath the bunk it looks like there are a couple of pieces of luggage maybe, and the whole place still smells like bleach.
Thank you, Lieutenant. You wouldn't mind just waiting outside, would you?
No, sir. Go right ahead. He steps out and shuts the door.
I let out a little sigh, and then look to the others. Well, let's get started then.
It seems he was worrying about something. He wasn't angry or irritated. It seemed more like he was stressed, more than anything else. Probably something weighing on him.
Murray, don't suppose you've got any stories about this region? Any interesting historical significance, that sort of thing?
You both have noticed how I'm sort of drifting more and more out of interest of the missions that we're doing. I'm getting more and more annoyed that we're not getting let home, and now I'm sort of standing there, not very engaged at all in what we're doing, but I sigh and I frown and I say, well, as you know, the region is subject to these electromagnetic interferences. I don't see how that's related to the people that live here or the history of the actual place. Or do I? Would I know anything that is special about this region, historically speaking?
It's been the site of conflicts between the British and Russians and Afghanis for many years in the mid 19th century. It was sort of the center of the great game, the war between Russia and the British Empire. Because it's so close to Pakistan, there are a lot of tribes that have kind of grown up on either side of the border which was artificially created, historically speaking, not all that long ago. The sort of the religions of the region essentially felt like kind of offshoots of Hinduism, of the kind of early Aryan religions of the Rig Veda before that kind of spun off in different directions in different kinds of different areas of India and took root until Islam came, and then of course the Muslim tribes did their best to spread to spread their beliefs and to stamp out all of the old ways.
Right. So I don't really mention anything in this because I don't see how it is a value at present.
Mm-hmm.
But I sniff the air and I say, "Is that bleach?"
I reckon so. I imagine Ellis was a very clean-cut person. Good. I can respect that. Might make it easy to find anything unusual then. I reach into my belongings and take out a pair of gloves, which I often carry with me. I am quite skilled in forensics. I'm immediately going to, while continuing this conversation, start searching the room, looking first of all in all the obvious areas, and then keeping an eye out for hidden compartments, places slightly harder to see, anywhere where perhaps something could have been placed away if you didn't want other people to find it immediately.
So I mean, you can discern very quickly. There is no place to hide anything here. I mean, you can see exactly where the wall of the hut reaches the floor, so that's easy to tell. I mean, under the bunk, there's a large canvas bag. It has the U.S. State Department seal and a logo on it that says diplomatic pouch, and then a lot of legalese warning you to not open it without permission. And it has a padlock that keeps its very stout zipper closed.
I consider the padlock for a moment. I'm not entirely sure I actually have any skill in removing padlocks from things. Unless there is a skill that does that.
So in Delta Green, usually that comes up as what's called special training, which is, if it applies, it's likely to be on the back of the sheet. There's a section for special training, and what that does in the rules is that special training essentially allows you to use some stat or skill in a new way. So if you have special training in lock picking, then you can just use your dexterity stat, for instance, to open locks if you have the right tools, without developing an entire skill for it, which would be like a craft skill for locksmithing, which is so elaborate that you could be a professional locksmith.
I'm not going to be doing that, because unfortunately I don't have any skill in such things, but I am quite intelligent. Do I think there's actually going to be anything in this bag other than basic standard issue equipment, the sort of thing we'd be given, for example? Like, would he actually have reports or what he was doing in here, or is it just like a supplies bag?
There's no telling. I mean, you can kind of pick it up and shake it, and you hear like rattling that sound, this sort of light tinkling, rattling that sounds like spent shells, gun bullet shells. There's something kind of heavy-ish in there. Not really heavy, but a few pounds, right? A couple of kilos. There's a lot of sort of plastic rattling of what sounds like plastic containers, maybe pill bottles, maybe something bigger than that. It's not hard to break it open if you decide you want to break it open. Although the logo does warn you in dire terms about doing that.
Did he live alone in this hut?
Yes.
More than really taking part in the search, I have donned gloves as well, and I'm sort of looking through the trash bin.
The trash has there's an empty bleach bottle, some stained rags. They smell of bleach, and the stains on them look. Let's see. This is Murray speaking. So it looks to you like it could be blood, and then one of the and then Zinchenko, who's got forensics, would confirm, oh, that's certainly blood.
Yeah, so we do that, and I say, well, that's peculiar. So he was cleaning something up, someone who was hurt, or someone else was.
Interesting. Yes, I start getting out my forensics kit and investigating this a little further. What sort of blood splatter are we talking about here? Does it seem like there was a lot of blood? A small cut? Is there blood splatter?
Okay, so what you can tell from the rags is, it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like they were mopping up from a murder, right? It's not that much blood. It looks like it's enough that it would have been a chore to clean it up, but not enough to kill someone. Does that help you any?
Like a deep cut or something?
Yeah, this is just looking at the volume of the blood that you see in the rags that was wiped up and cleaned with bleach.
It's possible he hurt himself, but applying this sort of first aid, when you could just go and get first aid, implies he didn't want anyone to know he'd hurt himself, or was cleaning something up.
He could have been hit, I suppose, by someone, and if he fell to the floor, this could cause a bit of blood, I suppose, if it's like someone just hitting their lip, I don't know, hitting their nose on the floor, falling down.
Maybe.
What I'm thinking here is, like, I think it's funny that, as you say, Robles, he was pacing back and forth, looking nervous, and then he disappears and everything is cleaned up. It's like, in my mind, it's either that he was nervous about he was gonna be picked up or meet someone, and he cleaned everything up before that, or someone got to him and then cleaned everything up.
Well, given the fact that they have video of him pacing outside his tent hut, means that they probably have surveillance of anyone entering or leaving after that as well, right?
Yes, you would expect so. So who was looking closely at the floor? I think Zinchenko, you were. Was Murray or Robles? Were you, or were you looking at other things?
I was just picking out the trash for now, and I know Zinchenko was over there by his locker or the thing before I called him over to verify the blood.
Yes, but I would then have definitely gone to look at the floor in my investigation of the room.
So as you look it over, of course, as I've said, it's been scrubbed, and that's where most of the smell is coming from. You find there are still some remnants that didn't get entirely scrubbed out of what must have been stains, like long traces of stains that might have been letters even.
I pause and get down on my knees very slowly. Look, there was something written here. This isn't just random staining. Do I think I could do anything to try and make this clearer? It looks like someone has made an attempt to scrub it out. Do I have any equipment on me that might help?
Yeah, and your so you have like a forensics bag, or investigative bag or something, if I remember right.
Correct.
That almost certainly has at least a small bottle luminol, say, which is this chemical that you can if it comes in contact with bodily fluids that have a lot of proteins, then the luminol helps illuminate them, and especially if you use it in combination with like an ultraviolet lamp.
Yes, I begin doing this immediately, mid-sentence. It's something I do, especially with these two, where we know each other well enough to know we're all professionals, and so I don't feel I need to stop and pause when I'm doing something. Instead, I just immediately begin trying to increase the visibility of this marking in the floor.
What is it? Is it blood?
Yeah, that seems to be the case. You start spraying the luminol on it, and luminol is actually fairly carcinogenic, so you know it's a good idea to spray it at arm's length. You can discern as you go that it seems to have been blood, and it seems to have been kind of finger painted in letters on the floor. That the farther you go, you can kind of piece together. You know, some of the letters are pretty heavily obscured because they were wiped up better than others. But as you piece it together, you know, you eventually see on the floor, and then before your luminol bottle starts to run out, it spells out the words Kali Ghati, Kali Ghati, and then in another patch, Death awakens the sleeper.
What's this? Kali Ghati?
Yeah, Kali Ghati translates roughly to Black Valley. Or Valley of Death, or Valley of... There's a lot of ways that you can use the word Kali. I mean, it derives from Hindu. So Kali, of course, is the famous death goddess of Hindu religion and mythology.
I frown heavily as this gruesome message is revealed in the floor. After a few moments, letting both Rubles and Murray study it, I immediately began washing away the luminol. After all, no one else needs to see this message.
That's funny, I say. Death awakens the sleeper? Someone clearly a bit obsessed if they writing something like this in blood on the floor, and then after that goes through the trouble of cleaning it up.
It might not be the same person cleaning and the same person writing.
All I can say is I'm definitely thinking this isn't a simple missing persons investigation. It's never simple with the program, eh?
Tell me about it. Okay, so what else do we got? I look around the room.
Mystery box, the surveillance tapes, and Kali Ghati.
What was it? Black Valley.
Yes.
Murray. Black Valley. Maybe it's a bit too vague, but maybe one of the locals. Maybe somewhere around here is called the Black Valley. Could be a location.
Can I reference that to anything on a map? I go over to my rucksack and I take out one of the maps, looking it over.
There are a few locations that come up called Kali Ghati, but none of them are anywhere near here.
Yeah, okay.
Like there's a village in southern India that's called Kali Ghati. There's a couple of places like that have the name, but none of them around here.
Well, I am pretty good with religion and the occult. Does that hold any other significance?
Without learning more about the context, it really doesn't. Like I said, it could mean Black Valley. It could mean a lot of things depending on which way you're intending to use the words.
Are you gonna open that? I point at the padlock.
Well, you read the warning label. We'll be all in serious trouble if someone finds out. I smile.
Too bad we found it that way.
I like how you think, Rubles. All right then. I'll reach into my pack and take out my Gerber multi-tool, and I'm gonna try and use it to see if I can jimmy off this padlock.
Well, with the multi-tool, you don't get very far because you just don't have enough leverage. What you need is just a good old-fashioned crowbar. Or a hammer. Usually with these kind of padlocks, if you just whack on it hard enough, something shakes loose.
Can't you use the butt of a gun?
You could, yeah.
Well, I guess I'll be doing that then. I need to improvise with what I have on hand.
Give me a strength ×5 roll, if you would. The ×5 should be listed next to your strength score on the character sheet as a percent chance.
That is correct. 31 under 50%.
So you whack away at it, and after a few tries, it pops open. You know, and you don't seem to have done any real damage to your pistol butt even.
Very good. As the padlock comes off, I gently open the bag and do it in a way that the others can see the contents as well.
So inside, it has a few gun cleaning supplies. You know, like a long wire brush for scraping out the barrel, and little brushes and a bottle of oil, things like that. There's a number of just loose 9mm pistol bullet, like spent bullet shells. There's a laptop computer that looks like it is a wreck because it has been shot. There's a notebook that's fairly charred, like it's been burned. And there's what would amount to a small mountain of empty mouthwash bottles of different kinds.
Damn it, you two. Do you think you can make anything out of this? I kind of pick up the charred notebook.
He has a drinking problem.
I looked at the empty mouthwash bottles, and I pick them up and I smell them. Why would you keep this around if they were empty?
Yeah, I mean, just smelling them, you can kind of compare notes, and they almost certainly were filled with contraband alcohol, which is strictly forbidden to U.S. personnel in this region. Probably with like if you filled it with gin or vodka and added a little bit of blue food coloring, then it's fairly deniable.
Yeah, seems like it.
Seen this before. Is there any possibility for me to go over the surveillance footage?
Sure. Yeah, you could go back to the officers or ask Lieutenant Castro out there. He can take you to a.
I turn to my colleagues here and says, "Are you gonna be okay here? I'm gonna just want to look at the surveillance footage, if that's okay with you guys."
Sure. I look around the room. Is there anything else that we missed? We checked the floor, checked this box, and I sort of just throw away the bed sheets and look around the bed and the mattress and the pillow.
Yeah, no, nothing. You don't turn anything else up. He seems to. It seems like he, other than what he threw away in the trash can, he did everything he could to just put everything that was left in the bag.
You know, I'd hate to say it, but this almost looks to me as if he thought something was going to happen to him, he wanted to do his orders as best he could and cover his tracks as he should.
Yeah, I mean, the real trouble is if he wanders off into Taliban hands.
That is not acceptable.
Yeah. What else was there in this bag?
So the computer is totally totaled. I give it a quick look. Yes, it's completely hard drive burnt out.
Well, it's hard to tell. It's been shot several times. Looks like with a pistol. But if you had somebody with skill and the right tools, who knows what they could recover once they took it apart.
The best I could do was probably to try to check if the hard drive was intact, but I don't really have the tools.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't turn on.
No.
Right.
Well, we'd probably better take this with us anyway.
Yeah.
Someone back home might be able to piece it together.
There's a communications hut on the premises here that's staffed with specialists who do the tech support for the place. So there could be somebody who's skillful over there, but you haven't looked into that.
we wouldn't want this to be... Whatever it is on there, we don't want anyone else to see it, but we would be happy if someone could access it for us. So there's that. I mean, yeah, we could bring it over to them and see if they could access it, and then we could take over from there, of course.
Certainly. And what about this notebook?
The notebook looks like it was kind of half-heartedly set on fire. So it's not entirely burned away. It looks like it was written in a code of some kind.
Looks like he changed his mind halfway through burning it.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he just threw a match in there and then didn't pay attention and it didn't get all the way done.
I notice the code, and I sort of wrinkle my nose a little and say, well, Murray, you're pretty good with this sort of thing, aren't you? You're quite clever. What do you think? Any code you recognize?
Yeah, I'll look it over and see if I can make anything out of it.
Do you have any of the SIGINT skill? Signals Intelligence is the skill for handling cryptography.
No, I don't.
It was encoded professionally. I mean, you have no way of knowing how.
Oh yeah.
How extensively.
I could have a look at that, maybe.
All right. So as you're putting the notebook together, who's got forensics skill as you're sort of piecing the pieces together in the right order?
I do.
Okay. And what is your skill level with that?
50%.
50. All right. And then with your SIGINT skill, as you're as you're piecing it together, you're kind of trying to decode it, figuring out, is this a substitution thing? What is this? So who's got the SIGINT skill?
I have that. I have 50 as well.
50. All right. Very good. So it's going to take a while, right? It's going to take probably it's going to take all night or well into the, if you take a break to sleep, it's going to take a good chunk of the next day to get it. I mean, you start feeling like you're making progress, but it's going to take a while to really, really explore this thing.
All right, well, maybe, Rubles, we take this with us and we get on this tonight. But move on to something else for now.
If you're able to piece that together, I can take the computer over to the communications department, see if we can do anything with it.
Sounds good to me.
I still would love to see the surveillance footage.
Well, I guess we all have something to be doing then. Let's clear up here. Marie, you head and get that computer seen to. Rubles, you check security, surveillance. I'll make a start on this book, and maybe that's our evening.
The surveillance footage, unfortunately, is frustratingly non-helpful. There's of course the footage of Ellis before he disappeared. Before that, the footage that they've retained, over the last several days, the only time that he shows up, I mean, he comes out of his bunk once or his hut once or twice in that period, and when he comes out, he looks like he's in rough shape from the kind of blurry footage that you can make out. It's grainy, but at one point, he comes back to his hut with a couple of younger men, younger soldiers that he looks familiar with. They look like they're kind of chatting, and they go into his hut together, and then after a few, and this is sort of in the evening, and after a couple of hours, they come out of the door and kind of wave back at him, and then go off, walking together back to their side of the base.
If I would have asked these young gentlemen to walk in a straight line, would they be able to?
Maybe, but they look a little more wobbly leaving than they did going in.
Yeah. Okay, that probably is Bryant and Booker, I take it.
Yeah, you would expect so.
Would it be possible to check if for anything odd, not necessarily in the footage, but with the footage?
Like what?
Like loops or weird blurs and...
So I mean, occasionally you get that interference that you saw earlier with the other footage. I mean, it comes and goes. It's not constant, and it's not at any schedule. You know, it's just at random times. There's an instant of that weird interference, or there's a more protracted period of it.
I take note of the interferences anyways, just to have a general idea.
Yeah, but as for anything else, you don't get the sense looking at it that the footage has been interfered with in any way.
As soon as I'm satisfied with what I've figured out, I kind of try to find the others.
So a couple of you are piecing the notebook back together, and then I think, Murray, you were taking the laptop over to the communication set?
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Also, as a side thing, as that will be most of my evening, I'm thinking, I would like to see if I could arrange for the next day for a vehicle to be able to maybe take us to the village that was mentioned. If that's possible.
Yeah, it actually, you can ask Lieutenant Castro about that, and it quickly becomes apparent that, yes, they can do that, but it sounds more complicated than you would think. I mean, they have, when they set out for these sort of things, even though things have been kind of peaceful, they go in these big, heavy armored cars, and they go in pairs, so that if one of them, gets stuck somewhere, it's not going to be isolated and without any protection. And the armored cars are extraordinarily expensive, so it's kind of a production when they set out like that. So he says, as he sort of, I mean, this is, you kind of piece all this together as he's kind of answering your questions and being a little cagey about what they can do, because he's reluctant to get put on the hook if something goes wrong. But that's kind of what you piece together. I mean, essentially what he kind of says, well, we could set something up where we have we have your team in the lead car, and then we have in the lead the lead MRAP is what they call it, a mine resistant armor protected vehicle, and then we can have the follow car with a fire team to give protection.
I smile a lot and agree with everything he's saying, offering whatever services we can, and say yes, we'd be grateful for anyone to drive us down there tomorrow.
All right, he says, I'll talk to the captain about it.
I'd be much obliged, friend. You'd be doing a big favor to me. And I smile and I've been trying to be very friendly this entire time. I'm quite an easy person to speak to, quite direct, but always quite friendly and open, at least.
You know what? Give me a charisma test. Charisma times 5 on percentile dice, if you would.
Can I use my persuade skill?
If you'd prefer, sure.
I would, because that is 70 as opposed to 60. 33.
Oh, very good. And even more so, in Delta Green, if you succeed at a roll and the numbers match each other on the dice, that's a critical success. So, you can tell his instinct is to sort of regard all of your friendliness with a great deal of wariness, and he would probably be getting even more wary the more you tried to kind of lay it on, but you're extraordinarily good at that kind of thing. So he kind of finds himself being set at ease almost despite his best instincts.
Yes, it's my manner about it. While I am obviously, at least appearing to be quite a military-minded individual, my past comes into play at times like this. I have spattered little questions, little colloquialisms, little finding out a little bit about him, and, trying to actually make it seem like I'm looking out for him, and who knows, there's no need to not be friendly about this sort of thing, and it helps sell cars. Sometimes it helps you get other things as well.
Oh, very good. All right. So into the evening, you're Murray, you're working working with Sergeant Sams at the communication hut. He kind of takes a look at the remains of the computer and gives a low kind of whistle and says, "That's a job." And so
someone was very angry with it.
Yeah, so he confirms with one of the officers that whether he should indeed set aside everything else and just to deal with this, or what kind of priority is this going to take? Is this going to take a day or two, or is this going to take a week or two? And they tell him a day or two, and so he kind of shrugs and says, "All right, well, I'll start digging in," and he takes it in and starts on very, very detailed, minute technical work with the machine.
Yes. Well, let us know when you've got something that we can look at. Yeah, any sort of information, or as soon as you get access to it, at least. And then we'd appreciate it if you didn't get into too much of the specifics as to what kind of information that is.
Yeah. He kind of nods absently and says, "Don't read it. Don't read or watch anything. Got it."
And I nod and I sigh and I start heading back. I'm guessing, is there a place that has been set up for us? Are we always walking around with body armor and helmets? Is that because?
Oh yeah, not in the base.
No,
I mean that would they basically have they have a couple of huts set aside, empty officers' huts set aside for your use, and no, I mean if you're just in the base, there's no need to walk around armed and armored and all of that.
Yeah, well, I'll find the place where he disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
The actual place, and I'll just look around there, feeling a bit like I don't have much else to do right now,
mm-hmm.
so I'm just looking around there.
Yeah, and where he vanished, it's quiet. There's nothing that stands out. There's nothing interesting about the site. You can look. It's within fairly easy reach of the wire, in a couple of places. The perimeter,
which is a pretty high perimeter, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody who's in pretty good shape, you could imagine them within that brief span making a run for the wire and climbing it, and getting through the wire, getting over the barbed wire, the razor wire part, and getting down again and disappearing. It would take some effort, and it would take really good timing, right? If he were to just, you would expect if he were to start exactly when that interference happened, and then make a dash, and then start climbing and over it. I mean, even that much would be an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And why would he want that in the first place? I take out a cigarette on my own and I start smoking.
Yeah.
Looking at this, and it's like, yeah, no way. I think I'm gonna go back to my hut and maybe read a little. I got a book that I'm reading currently, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look at pictures of my family that I can't call tonight, which sucks.
All right, so the looking through the notebook as you're piecing pieces together, after a few hours, you realize you've cracked his code, which is not all that. It's not a very deep one, right? It's one that he probably invented himself based on some fairly simple old-fashioned codes. So it's meant to keep curious people who don't really know what they're doing from reading it. But that's about the extent of it. And so you can start piecing more the remains of the notebook together, and slowly start building a sense of what he has been up to. So what So I guess tell me what are you most interested in his notebook?
I would have waited for Rubles to, I assume, join me, as I did need her expertise as well.
Yeah, this is taking place over the course of the evening, so you've got access to your teammates as they come and go.
And I'm interested primarily in recent activities. I don't feel there's much to be gained from learning what he's been doing over the months and months and months here. I imagine most of that would be rather inconsequential, at least to me. I don't know what his mission was, and frankly, I'm not here to find that out. But any mentions of Ghati, or any other symbols or terminology that seems to be linked to that, as well as the village that he was always going to? Any information about that?
So yeah, toward the as you put together pieces toward the end of the notebook first, and it seems like he had become increasingly obsessed with going to Ghati. He puts it in terms of seeing for myself, and then at another point says that he doesn't want to put anyone else at risk, but he has to see.
Interesting, but I start going further back. What's he talking about? What references are there to this thing he has to see?
Over the course of another couple of hours, you find scraps that come together that you can compare with, correlate with other notes earlier or later, and the you decide that, I mean, he was interested in it from the beginning because he was pursuing rumors of supernatural activity there, that it's this perhaps mythical place that was said to be in the region in notes going back to the British occupation and before in the 19th century. He makes a couple of references to what sound like Victorian era British histories that he's dug up. And elsewhere, he had concluded that there was a village near the Vajida mountain, which is near the base, about 40 kilometers away, 40 kilometers east. That would put it at if that was right, that would put it in a tribal area right on the border, well outside the area where the forces at Fog Turner were allowed to operate.
Interesting. And is it anywhere near the village we've been told he goes to often?
You could almost draw a line between the base and Kulushkel and the peak of the mountain.
Look at this. He was trying to investigate this place. Might even have been his mission.
Yeah, and... well, given that it seems to be a pretty big operation to just take a car or a vehicle from here, it should probably be within walking range, or...
His notes, he estimated about 40 kilometers. I mean, that's how far it is between here and the mountain, right, on all the other maps. So if it's within, a short, whatever side of the mountain it would be on, 40 kilometers, in theory, you could hike that over the course of a day or two if you're in really good shape, and if nothing interfered with you didn't have any accidents.
What's the last entry? The very last page, the last thing you wrote?
The last thing in there is what I described before, where he's committed to seeing it for himself.
We have a man who's getting more and more anxious, irritated, trying to find out about a place. The final entry says he's gonna go have a look. The final time he's seen, as you've told me, is looking anxious outside his hut. Suddenly he's gone. Now this makes me think of two things. Either, one, something to do with these electromagnetic disturbances. Maybe something or someone didn't want him finding out any more information. I highly doubt he went to investigate, considering he seems to have vanished. What do you think?
Well, if I was sent here to investigate these disturbances, where would I start? Probably by trying to locate the source of them, right? Maybe there's something in his notebook about his work doing that. If we can track the source, then maybe we can track him.
Well, the deal I've got us gets us vehicles to the village, not this place. I have a feeling we might need to... better investigate first. After all, if we drive straight there, we're going to have to give a bit of a reason as to just driving to this random place, as far as these people know. I think it's better to go to the village he was known in. That can be covered as part of our routine investigation, and there, see if we can find out a little more to go on.
There's still a good bit of the notebook to decipher. At this point, it's very late. You're all getting, unless you got an extraordinarily good Constitution score, you're probably getting kind of wiped out.
I acknowledge that getting a good night's rest is important. I'm going to close the notebook and say, Rubles, if you want, you can have a little more of a look, but I think we need to call it a day and get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I don't know if it's of any importance to this, but there could be some... I mean, he was drinking on the job. Is that really standard procedure for a Delta Green agent?
I frown a little and lean in. No. You know some of the things that we've seen. I wouldn't blame the man for maybe, especially if he thought he was onto something, by himself. Who knows what it did to his mind.
And who knows how much he talked to his drinking buddies. Before we leave, maybe we should talk to this driver, or make sure we get this Bryant as our driver to Kuluzhkel.
That is good thinking. Let's make sure he's with us tomorrow, then we can talk to him on the way.
The evening kind of passes along, and the next day you've got more research you can do toward the. You've got people that you can speak to. You expect you're going to start getting something out of the computer. You'll get an answer from Sergeant Sam's at the communications hut, probably, but at the end of the day, whether and how much of the computer is salvageable. So, in the meantime, who are there people that you want to speak to? Are there, I guess who of you is going to be focusing on the notebook, and who's doing other things?
I suppose I'll stay on the notebook. Seems to be something I've made progress with. And I also quickly, of course, go to Murray in the morning and inform him of what me and Rubles found in the night, giving him a quick rundown of our plans and trying to get his view on things as well.
I'm smoking and I'm pacing around. I've been down to the communications department and I relay that they're gonna work it out during the day. I take note that Robles has seen some people being friends of the guy. So maybe, worth talking to them, and good idea with getting them in the car, I guess. If we're going somewhere, I'll be happy to go somewhere if we need to.
Rubles, up to you if you want my help putting a little charm on these friends of his, or if you think you can handle it yourself. I trust your judgment.
I'll test the waters and see if we need some pressure put on them. When
you go over the old histories, British histories of the region that Ellis mentions in his journal, you recognize a couple of the titles. They're obscure. they're not the kind of thing that you're likely to find, even searching Google Books, as which is more and more a treasure trove of those old rare books. He mentions an author, a Colonel Arthur Blythe Merriweather, who was writing about the region, and what Merriweather had to say, Ellis didn't bother to put together, or to record in his notebook. He said, it seems like he had that stored elsewhere. The Merriweather, you've got a good occult skill, if I remember. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's 60%. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. That's very good. So, Blythe Merriweather was a notorious opium addict. He spent years in Broadmoor Criminal Lunatic Asylum. He's not the first source that you would go to for reliable history. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, but then again, not, because of the program and what we're doing from time to time. But still, if he thinks that there's something that's dating back a long time in this area, it kind of piques my interest, rather than something that is a sort of a recent electromagnetic phenomena. But if it's tied to something really old, then that could be interesting.
Murray, does he ever mention what he concluded about the running towards the fence in 53 seconds or something like that when we speak, anytime when we speak during the day?
Maybe casually over breakfast that I mentioned that, yeah, who would be able to do that? I mean, it's some kind of elite force kind of guy who is desperately wanting to get out of here.
Because that kind of puts things in another light. Because that means if he did that, he knew when the disturbance was coming.
Yeah, exactly. He would know, he'd be waiting for it, and it'd explain him being nervous because he is about to do something.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I don't know if he was that kind of guy. I mean, you've seen them yourself, the fences, they're pretty high. I don't know how fit he was. I suppose someone could tell us. Maybe you could, do you want to talk to one of his friends, if he's got one?
We could probably go there together if you like.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Bryant is a driver, so when he's on duty, if he's not going somewhere, he's generally in the motor pool, keeping up the vehicles, or more likely just wasting time, or sometimes training the locals, the Afghan forces. I shouldn't call them locals because they're more likely to have been brought in from the other side of the country, but anyway, so that's Bryant, and Booker is a medic, so he's there's a medical facility on the base, and that's where he spends most of his time. So who do you want to approach first, I guess, is the big question. What you know of them is Booker is a little older. He's a big guy young man from Philadelphia. Bryant is younger. He's short, skinny, good mechanic. They don't look like they're the sort to have anything in common whatsoever, except that they were kind of thrown together here and became buddies.
You got any preference?
No.
I'd suggest the older one, perhaps.
Yeah. Just mostly interesting to see if they are the ones coming out of his hut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can confirm that easily. I mean, you could get personnel records for the base, that kind of thing, and they definitely were. So Booker is he's a medic. He's brawny. He was a high school football linebacker, American football player, and he looking over sort of the basics of his background. That there's a note that in his file that says he has like a year and a half of college that he had accomplished before he joined up. But you find him and he word gets around a place like this pretty easily, so he doesn't look he obviously knows who you are, and he doesn't look surprised to see you. He looks kind of not thrilled to see you, but resigned, I'll put it that way. But he when you come in, he sort of comes to not full attention, like he's saluting or anything like that, but he says, what can I do for you?
Well, as you know, we're doing a bit of an investigation about Ellis, and were you close with him? I see. We happened to stumble on the surveillance tapes, and it seems that you and Bryant, you were occasionally perhaps hanging out with him, as they say.
Yes, sir. From time to time. Bryant and I are, we're good friends, but sure, we spent time. We talked with Ellis occasionally.
What was he like?
Oh, I mean, quiet. I think he liked having us around because we didn't, we don't have much in common with the folks he usually socializes with, I would imagine, but. He was, he's quiet, moody. He's dealing with some depression or PTSD, if you ask me. And that's not an official diagnosis. That's not my job, but that's what he's like.
Yeah, fair enough. And would you say he's a fit guy? Was he working out a lot? Stuff like that?
Yeah, he's... I don't know. The last couple of months, not so much. He used to jog with the other officers. That was about the only thing he did with the other officers.
Did he mention anything about his work and what he does?
Oh, no, not really. You both get the sense that there's a lot more to it than that.
Well, you could give us a little, perhaps. I mean, he is disappeared after all. I'm sure you could help us in some way if there was anything.
Well, I don't know if it has. I don't think it has anything to do with his work. He reads up on all kinds of crazy things, so.
Yeah, where did he keep those? Did he have books and stuff? We didn't see anything in his hut.
Oh, I don't know about that. I just mean stuff he liked to talk about.
What did he talk about then? What kind of things?
He thought there was this old crazy place, this valley around here. He said that the Afghans and some old history books said it was squirreled away in the mountains, but nobody ever heard of it or knew where it was.
Do you know any particular place that he was indicating would be where the valley is?
Oh, he talked about Varjita, but I mean, I don't think there's anything to that. I wouldn't take it too seriously. I mean, the Taliban around here would have taken it over or blown it up.
Have you been there? Have you been close to the mountain?
Well, I mean, yeah, we don't go that far out, but but that's just the way things are, Every village around knows their, they know their neighbors.
But if he wanted to go there, how would he go about doing that? If he wanted to, this is very speculative, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough terrain, You could get close in one of the MRAPs, but I expect it would be a lot of hiking other than outside, once you got close to it.
We're talking about 50 kilometers away, or it's a bit of a trek, right?
Yeah, I mean it wouldn't take that long to drive out there. I don't think. I mean, we can make the drive to Kulush in an hour or so, even with the roads being bad.
Well, we have further indications that he would be interested in Vajita Mountain and this Kali Ghati. It seems like the most likely place where he would have, as they call it, wandered off to.
I kind of frown at my colleague here, as I feel that he might be a little too reckless with our intel. Just one question: did he ever mention what this Vajita Mountain would actually hold? What was this valley, or what it was he was talking about? I mean, a couple of friends like you, probably when you get lonely and maybe hang out in someone's hut like friends do, play cards, share a swig of mouthwater, I say, and I try to smile.
He says, "Well, no, nothing like that. That's against the regulations."
Of course, but you do know we're not obliged to report anything to Captain Byers.
I mean, look, as for this Kali Ghati place, he talked about it like it was going to be some kind of secret base, you know, that once he knew where it was exactly, he could have it, you know, have drone strikes come in and blow it all up. I don't know why. I mean, there was other times he talked about the people there that he said there was old stories that said people there live forever and everything was peaceful all the time, and I mean, he was all over the place.
Huh. Funny. So, one idea is that it's a tactical location, but another is that it's the Garden of Eden. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, who knows? You know, he looks kind of reluctant, right? Like there's something on his mind that about Ellis in particular that he kind of comes up onto the verge of talking about it and then thinks better and clams up.
I try to pressure him a little bit more then, and I say, well, come on, you can tell us. We realize that this isn't the average guy, and you know that we haven't been sent in here because we are the average guys either. You could tell us anything, even if it sounds crazy, we don't care.
And as I said before, we don't have any obligation to report anything to Captain Byers, and neither will we.
Tell you what, one of you do make a attempt a persuade roll.
Yeah, I have 60.
Me too.
Let's see, Robles, you would get a plus 20 bonus because, frankly, you're female, and that's very rare around here.
So should I?
Yeah.
I'm not super charming, but I understand the importance of smiling. So I actually smile and lean in a little closer.
Whereas I'm trying to persuade in the very blasé kind of way, like, this is not important. You can say anything to us.
I actually put my hand on his arm and say, say, don't worry, you can trust us. And I roll a 13.
He kind of nods and he says, well, it's like I said, Ellis was he's all over the place, you know. He had these crazy dreams that he talked about. He said he heard when he was dreaming he would hear these things like this how do you put it? It was so weird. He said it was like hearing these droning sounds that weren't really sounds, like he was hearing voices that weren't really voices. That, I mean, he talked way too crazy for an army intelligence officer, let alone, and he kind of gestures at the two of you without saying anything out loud.
So when did he hear these voices and noises?
Yeah, I mean, when he was asleep, I guess. He said it was dreams that kept coming to him.
Did he say when it started?
No, I mean, I first remember hearing about that. I don't know, a few weeks ago, a month ago, maybe.
And how long has he been here?
Oh, 9 months?
Okay. Alright. And as a side note here, did we sleep well? Nothing strange about that?
Yeah, nothing weird came up for you when you were sleeping.
Well, okay, and he's saying that he's possibly suffering from PTSD and stuff. Maybe that's tied together, but yeah, it's clear that something weird is going on. Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot. Anything you think we should we talk to Bryant about this as well?
He shrugs. Talk to him if you want. I mean, he'll. I don't think he was around Ellis much when I wasn't there.
Yeah, fair enough. We wanna. It'd be interesting to take a little, tour to Kulushkal and maybe get a bit closer to this Vardita mountain if this is actually something that he could have been really interested in.
Yeah, I mean, that's you'd have to talk to the captain about that. That's not a call I'm gonna make.
That's fair enough. Okay, let's see if our colleague is done, then maybe we could head off. What do you think?
Thank you. You have been very helpful. And if you remember anything that doesn't matter how small, of course, you can always find me, and I would be grateful for anything else that might help us finding Alice.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, only other thing that comes to me is, I just thought of it because this is something that kind of bugged Bryant. I remember one time they were talking, they got on talking about religion at one point. And I mean, you know how you do. You get so bored out here. But Ellis told him, he said he didn't believe in God, like, the one God that we all know. He said because there wasn't just one. He says we're surrounded by gods all the time and we never know it. He said he wanted to see them just once before he died.
Does that ring any bells for me and what I've been hearing about Merryweather and his kind of beliefs?
I mean, the way he was talking, you could read that as an expression of animism. I mean, they're since the beginning of human experience, people have found spirits and gods around everywhere in the world. And since there are so many of the areas around here draw a lot of their deep history from a lot of it overlaps with India, and Hinduism is famous for that extensions of that kind of belief. With Merryweather in particular, I mean, Merryweather he ran in sort of British occultist circles who theosophy and that kind of thing. They love to study old religions and old mythologies as the secret to, revelations of great things without really understanding much about their historical or anthropological context.
Rather than Hinduism, some kind of animism. Does that ring anything true with... does that have any connection to Kali, Ghati, or the Black Valley, or Valley of Death, and all that stuff? I mean, all these gods.
I mean, there's no way to know. I mean, nothing that really stands out.
Is there any way I could find out more about Merryweather's writings and stuff like this? Could I access anything from here?
So you're not able to turn up anything remotely. You track down some of his books in different library holdings, but they're all pretty far removed. But toward the end of the day, when you check in on Sergeant Sams, he says that that he's got what data he could salvage off of the laptop And when you start looking through that, a lot of it is these very big files that are scans of old books, especially books by Colonel Arthur Blythe Merriweather.
Fantastic. Looks like I'm in luck.
And this, too, takes a good long time to kind of read through and sift, because Merriweather, like a lot of authors of the period, was extremely wordy and wordy without saying much. And so, but he, there are parts, there are like sections that talk about, when you eventually find things to talk about Kaligati, then he says that there was a guru in Kaligati that explored states of consciousness that led to immortality, but that could be achieved only by near-death experience. And he's, Merriweather's reporting this like second or third hand, but he says that this guru was said to have a mantra in the native language of Kaligati that was unrelated to Urdu or Pashto because it was older and purer than those, but it's and the pronunciation that he gives is total gibberish, but he translates it as the mantra as meaning death awakens the sleeper,
which is rather than someone actually dying, someone reaching a near-death state that would awaken something within you.
Right. That seems to be what he's talking about. And he said that the village, he says like this explorer, this witness that that Merriweather was getting his information from, said that the village itself vanished altogether after he went to it and then departed.
The entire village disappeared.
Right. I mean, that's what it says. Yeah.
And any locations or anything like that? Does anything of this correlate to the location we're in?
All he says about the site of Kaligati is he puts it in eastern Afghanistan, or he kind of you could say that it's in this region, but he doesn't get precise. He doesn't mention Varjita Mountain.
Alright, but it seems like the ultimate purpose of this whole thing is about reaching some sort of immortal state. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean that and that's exactly that sort of conclusion is exactly why nobody took notorious insane opium addict Arthur Blythe Merriweather very seriously.
Any indication that Ellis was under drugs or anything in what we found? I mean,
not that you found, no. Other than booze, right.
I'll take these findings then, if there's no further thing that I can find in the laptop.
Yeah.
I've been sitting now pretty late. I'm smoking, hunched over by the computer, just going through one text at a time. I'm kind of used to this, and it's kind of fun, in a way, in my sort of lethargic kind of fun way. We just go through things, and I will sort of sum this up as we reach, I guess, before midnight or something like that. I don't know how long.
Yeah. You all have a chance to compare notes as it gets late.
Yeah, and as I got that, I'm gonna start heading over to the others.
Well, I spent the entire day trying to extrapolate more from that notebook. To be honest, I was actually expecting us to be leaving during the day, but when I then noticed that Murray was deep in his books, I accepted that I probably wasn't going to get through to him today, so I waited around a bit, but a bit impatient, to be honest with you. Still, I've been focusing on the notebook, simply trying to find a location. Anything which might indicate that if he thought he'd found this place, where it is, exactly, or at least the closest approximation.
He has notes that about his visits to Kuluj Kel, to the village that's on the way to the mountain, and he says that he has a few notes from a few different visits there, that start very frustrated because he says they staunchly pretended that they'd never heard the words Ghati and didn't know anything about it, and that they were very friendly, the villagers were, and did their best to get along with the foreign visitors, while at the same time not making themselves a target for the insurgents. But he eventually got them to admit that there was indeed a village out there, and that it was in the shadow of Farjita Mountain, and that it's very hard to find. And they said that he should forget the place and never go, because there have been local fighters who have occasionally banded together to prevent people from going to that place, and they have hidden camps that they hide out in, but that it's a horrible, evil place, and the people there worship some pagan god and conduct awful sacrifices, and just do all kinds of evil, terrible things.
Of course, I skim some of these extra details because, as far as I'm concerned, they are not relevant to our mission.
Mm-hmm.
I need to find, though. He must have been told this. He must have been looking for it. Is there any page where, maybe in the middle or even towards the end, where he just suddenly makes a mention of suddenly making progress in some way? One minute he's talking to them and they're telling him nothing. The next, it seems, he's found the place. There must be something in the middle.
The tenor of his entries change, and he stops. He sort of goes from this. It goes from this sense of desperately trying to solve a mystery to deciding what he wants to do about it. That's kind of the difference in tone that it takes.
Very well, then. When the others come to meet me in the evening, I remark, after they inform me of everything they found. Right. Here's the problem. He found Ghati. He's gone there. Question is, how the hell do we follow him?
Yeah, and how did he get there? If he just disappeared like that, did he just walk out? Maybe he's not even there yet. I mean, he could. It's a pretty far stretch to walk.
Given that 4 days has passed already, he's probably there.
Yeah, I guess.
And from what you've told me, it seems that maybe he did indeed know something about these electromagnetic interferences and could have...
I don't know how that plays into the whole picture, but he is... I mean, what this all boils down to is some kind of search for immortality. I don't know if... I know it's a common thing to be wishing for. I don't know if he in particular had an obsession with that.
Maybe, or maybe it was his assignment. Doesn't really matter, Murray. I know you're interested in those things. What matters is...
Yeah, we gotta get to him.
Sorry, I have a hunch. I have a hunch that he wanted to get there. He knew the cameras, or this electromagnetic interference, would happen at some point. I'm willing to bet, even though I'm not the scientist, that the source of these signals is probably, and I point at the map, I bet you it's near this mountain. Maybe it's even at this site.
You mean this site is sending out the electromagnetic interference?
Why not? I've seen weirder shit, haven't you?
Yeah. No, I'm not questioning it.
But... we're going there tomorrow to the village. We have to. Our time frame is getting small here. The question is, do we just make an excuse and go rock climbing looking for this place, or is there anything we can think to do that could just get us slightly closer to an actual location? Something tells me the locals, well, they're not going to tell us on the first visit.
Guess not, unless we make a good case.
I mean, do we need to know more? Or should we... If we need to stop him from falling into Taliban hands, or stop him doing whatever he think he's gonna do when he gets there, maybe we are pressed for time.
I agree. I don't really think any further investigation into motive is really needed. We need to find out how to get there, because I bet he's there, or on his way there, or maybe he's even been picked up on the way there by some of these hidden camps. That could get messy.
I mean, the closer we could get to Varjita Mountain, the better, I guess. But I don't think we can get the vehicles to take us there.
No, we're gonna need to play a little loose with that. We wouldn't want the military personnel here getting involved anyway.
Maybe there are people that can take us there in Kulush-Kel.
I mean, I'm willing to bet there are. The question is, what are we gonna do in a couple of hours that it took him weeks? I guess we'll have to play it by ear and find out when we're there. What do you say?
Yeah, if they're not willing to take us to the mountain, then that's what we're gonna have to do, or we set out ourselves. But yeah, it's still about 50. How far could it be? Like 10 kilometers from Varjita Mountain?
I'll say this, let's go to bed. Let's get started early in the morning. And Murray, maybe you can... You said the locals. Typical terrified locals. Maybe you can come up with something that makes it seem like we're doing good for them. You know, oh no, help us out, and it will stop something disastrous happening. I don't know.
Well, I'll see it like this. That the colleague that we have, that they have spoken to already about it, he has set off on a mad quest, and we need to bring him back. We don't care about the place, we just don't want him to end up in any trouble. Where would they think we most likely could pick him up? Because if there was such a place as a hidden village, I'm sure they wouldn't want him to be wandering there anyways.
That's good thinking. Alright, let's get to bed. 6 o'clock. We leave in the morning.
The villagers there are they're tremendously friendly and helpful up until you start talking about Ghati, and then they suddenly get stone-faced and ignorant, and it takes a lot of annoying back and forth and work to persuade one of their leaders that you're genuinely interested in finding your man and keeping him from going there, and that's your interest in finding the place is preventing other people from,
which is the truth.
Right. But convincing them of that is, it takes some. It's exhausting.
I can imagine, but I kind of back up Murray, and between us, try and spin this story of generally being out there to help them.
What do they speak here? Is it Pashto or?
It's Pashto generally. There are some clans, some tribes that speak Urdu, which is more common across the border in Pakistan. You make the drive, through the. It's like I said, it's very kind of sparse terrain. There's trees, there's brush, but it's kind of scrubby, and a lot of these narrow valleys and things. The base assigns you a vehicle with Bryant driving, and usually he's kind of a chatterbox, but the more you go along, the more uncomfortable he gets, because he and Booker had all these strange conversations with Ellis that then ended with Ellis going crazy and running away from the base. But you have him as a driver, and Booker as a medic, and then there's a follow in the big armored vehicle, and then there's a following vehicle that has a handful of other soldiers as an escort. When you were setting out before you got to Kulush-Kel, that too was a little awkward, because Byers he looks over the vehicles and is clearly nervous about losing them. because he can't replace them at this point. He wants all of his men to come back safe, but he needs the MRAPs to stay intact, if at all possible. But so when you set out, you get to Kulushkel, and you eventually kind of narrow down which arm of the mountain is likeliest to hold this supposed village, and how do you get there, and what do you expect the terrain to look like? And you can look on, there's no shortage of satellite maps around here that don't show anything that looks like. I mean, maybe there's something that might be a couple of little shepherd huts here and there, but there's nothing that's really concrete.
Well, going on the information we have, I'm going to do my best to persuade our escort to wait for us in this territory, or at least get us as close to the border, and then convince them to wait while we, on our intel, try and find our man. I don't expect them to come with us. I know they can't. I doubt I'm going to be able to persuade them to disobey military orders. But if they could just be as nearby as possible, at least we won't have to go too far on foot.
Okay, so there's Sergeant Harding is the commander of the other vehicle, and he looks kind of alarmed hearing that you're planning on driving further out than Kulushkel, and then even more alarmed that your plan is to go out in just a single vehicle. So give me a persuade roll on to convince him to stay behind, basically.
49 over 70.
Okay, all right. So he's not thrilled. He says that Bryant and Booker know what to look out for in terms of ambushes, but sending a single vehicle out by itself is asking for trouble. But he backs down when you kind of push and dig your heels in.
I assure him that we don't want him and his vehicle or men to come to any harm. We're not going to go running around looking for military camps. We're simply trying to find our man, and we think he might be in the area.
You set out from Kulushkel. The terrain gets a lot more hilly, and the road gets rougher and rougher and narrower and narrower. Bryant kind of drives around a bit, looking for the ways to continue to get where where you've pinpointed you're trying to get to, and eventually he just stops the vehicle, the big armored MRAP. He says if you want to get any closer to where you're talking about, it's going to be up over this bluff up ahead here, these rocks, and further on. There's not a road that's gonna go in there.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to do a little bit of reconnaissance. You stay here, don't worry. We'll handle the rest from here. Murray? Rubles, you ready?
Yeah.
Do I have to?
I'm afraid you do, Murray. I give him a smile and a sort of friendly pat on the shoulder. Come on, it'll be fun.
You're kind of invaluable with your knowledge of the area.
I know I kinda am. I light a cigarette and I get out.
Possibly being one of the fittest people here, I shall lead the way first, seeing if I can find a good route over this bluff to see if we can get over it.
All right. Let's see. Everybody roll athletics for me. Because it does require a good bit of climbing and hiking and...
Yes, so my athletics is 30%, but does being in great shape help at all?
In this case, no.
43 over 30%.
I rolled 31 and I have 30.
23 under 30.
It's a tough climb. I mean, you take a lot of tumbles. There's rocks and they slide and you kind of bang yourself around, and which means each of you winds up taking a d6 damage.
I sort of see them slip and I grin a little. as I slowly make my way up. I'm a little behind them. They're trying to push it, I think, a bit more than I am.
And you can see where not to step.
On a d6, I roll 5 damage.
Yeah, so you've clearly twisted something pretty badly. You choose what. It could be a wrist from a bad fall, or an ankle, or something that, or you could knock a tooth in, falling and smashing your face into a rock.
I feel trying to find the best way first. I totally just stumble and catch my left hand and proper gash it quite badly. Luckily, it's not my gun hand, but it does cause me to stop for a moment and quickly just use a quick bandage on our survival gear just to quickly wrap it. It's not too bad, but fuck.
Yeah. 5 is rough. You don't have all that many hit points to begin with, so it's pretty tough, and you're gonna. So if anybody has the first aid skill that you want to give it a shot, you can roll it using your first aid kits. You can get a plus 20 bonus to your chance. So if anybody's got better than base, then you could give that a shot to help with these injuries.
I have the first aid kit, but I don't have much better than base. No.
Yeah, so it would be a 30% chance with the modifier.
Yeah. Okay. Should I do that then? I'll come up, and I see you're lying there suffering. Or not lying down, but you stumble and it's clearly bleeding. You're trying to put pressure on it. Ah, shit, I say, and I take it out of my day sack.
And in fact, I'll give you a further bonus of plus 20 because you're not in a crisis. You can take a good bit of extra time to help with it. So we'll call it a 50% chance total.
I try and I get the wrong thing out. I get 69 and it falls out of my hand. It starts tumbling down the slope. Shit.
Robles, how about you? Did you get badly hurt?
5 as well.
So we can make another attempt at first aid on poor Robles.
I slipped and actually hit my head. And the worst thing is that I think I cracked my camera lens as well.
Oh, come on. I realize at least I have something different for you, because I dropped the bandage and messed that up. So I don't heal anything on him.
Right.
But I take out a sort of, I don't know, what would you use, a kind of ice pack thing?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, break it, and I try to apply it to you then. And now I get 81.
So a couple of you are, once you enter the valley proper, come down finally from this dangerous spur of the mountain, a couple of you are really, really banged up already. You can put, you've got bandages on that'll sort of keep the bleeding down, but it's you're hurting. As you come into the valley, you notice a change in the plant life. The grasses and the bushes are gradually become kind of ugly and diseased looking. And as you're walking along, between that and your own injuries, it seems like it's unsettlingly quiet in this valley. The far end of the valley, between spurs of the mountain, between the heights of the mountain, there's it gets very, very deep and shadowy, and in the shadow of these big limestone cliffs, you can see a small village squatting there, about 2 kilometers away when you first catch sight of it. So as you're walking in, it's quiet and it's almost silent most of the time. What is your approach like, I should say, before we go further?
I, just before we approach, say, we have no idea what to expect here. I say we enter as quietly as possible. Also, considering the injuries we're taking, remember the mission. We find out the state of Ellis, then we get the hell out of here. I don't want to get into a firefight with... well, I kind of look a little, for the first time in all this, a little bit distracted as I think back to the whole entire reason I was recruited in the first place. And I just remark, I don't want to get into a firefight with crazy people.
Do you want me to take point on this?
Yes. Yes, Rubles, please. If you can, if your injury's not too bad, try and just get a situation on this village.
I'm gonna try to use my stealth skill and, of course, my alertness skill to get a pretty good view of the situation in the village.
Yeah, you bet. All right. So roll for stealth first, and let's see how stealthy you are. With you have a good stealth skill, so yeah. So you're very, very stealthy all the time when you want to be, and the roll determines how far we go beyond that.
I roll 38, and I have 80.
Oh yeah. So sure. So Robles, she's gone very quickly. As you come closer. The village doesn't look busy. It doesn't look deserted, but it looks ancient and kind of decaying. From afar, looking through binoculars, you can see it's wooden buildings with mud mortar. There are a couple of sickly goats wandering around. And at one point, as you're watching, you don't see the source of it, but there's this sudden, strange wailing that rises up from the direction of the village and kind of echoes off of the cliffs that tower over it. This wail that sounds, I mean, you can't tell whether it's ecstatic or despairing that comes crying out of there and slowly dwindles into silence again.
Can I determine the source of it?
It sounds like it's coming from the village. I mean, it sounds like you don't know if it's a man or a woman.
How many huts? What is it? Huts more or houses?
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple construction. There's, all told, there's maybe a couple of dozen structures. Most of them are concentrated in one area that has a lot of small little buildings, and then there are a few larger buildings beyond that look like they're the sort of the biggest houses, and maybe there's a well in there, something that looks like it might be an old temple.
And I try to actually sneak into the village.
As you approach, you catch this strange smell of mold and rot and lye. As you get nearer, you see that there are letters carved around the door frames of the buildings. Do you have Hindi or Urdu as a language?
No, I have Pashto only.
Okay, so you recognize it as probably one of those languages. Like, you know enough to know that, but you can't decipher them. You hear that long wail rise up, and as you approach the village, you actually can kind of move around and catch sight between a couple of the houses. There's this woman sitting or sitting kind of with her legs crossed in the dust between buildings. She has her eyes closed, and it looks like she's sort of in the grip of some kind of delirium. You see another woman emerge from one of the buildings and walk out to the well across the village, and she passes by the one who's screaming with barely a glance. It doesn't register much interest to her.
You said there was something that looked something like a temple.
It's a small temple. It looks like it might have been standing here for who knows how long. I mean, it could be 1,000 years it's been here. It's open to the outside, and so you can see a glint of you catch kind of a glint of gold from the heart of it without going into the village proper, right? You're just on the outskirts.
Because I kind of relay this information, very few words, of course, and whispered over the radio to the others when I encounter it.
I look over at Sachenko and I say, well, it sounds innocent enough.
Innocent enough. And yet, we need to get inside that temple. If Ellis was coming here, that's where he probably would go.
No sign of hostiles. I suppose we could just go in, right?
Dr. Murray, do you believe this could be the referred to Lost Village?
Yeah, absolutely. Could very well be. You're saying there's someone there under some sort of influence?
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing, but...
Yeah, definitely. If there's an actual temple there, yeah, I'd want to have a look.
Rubles, can you see a way to get us to this temple quick?
Can I see a way to get us to the temple quick and without getting too much attention?
Well, without getting attention is the big thing. I mean, you could certainly get to it, but where the temple is across a little dirt path from the larger larger houses. It's right next to the well that the villagers use.
What's the time of day at this point? Oh, we left quite early, but by the time I've actually got here...
Oh, yeah. I'll say most likely late afternoon. I mean, it's summer, so it's not going to get dark very early, but you've probably got maybe 2 or 3 hours from until sunset.
What do you say, Rubles? Maybe it's better if we wait till night. After all, we have a little advantage at night. And at this point, I check my night vision goggles.
I'll meet up with you again.
I'll shrug and let him make that call and sit back and have a cigarette.
Yes, let's wait. And I'll sort of just take this time to adjust my bandage a little with my own first aid kit. And I'm saying we wait till nightfall.
And I'll sit and eat some rations as well, I guess. But we should probably relay this to the vehicle. So we'll do that to him then and say that we've found a likely location where we could find our associate. We'll need to go in during the night though, so stand back and be ready for extraction.
If Rubles gave a few more intel things, could she maybe have told me what those things... Because I can read Urdu, or understand Urdu.
I could probably...
I'll tell you what, you've got the photography skill, right, Rommel? So if...
I have a biometric camera. I don't know what biometric camera means.
That's not a long-range camera. That's like this little... It's this little handheld thing that you can hold up to somebody's face up close, and it'll take a picture of their face, and it'll get a good look at their retinas, and you can also take a thumbprint on it. I mean, it's basically you use those to collect data on villagers and on the locals, so that people can compare it later. If you capture one of them in a firefight, then you can say, aha, this person came from here.
As I am a photographer from start, I'm thinking it doesn't say in my inventory, but I'm thinking I might have some kind of compact thing for myself.
Sure. Yeah.
But the lens cracked on that one, of course. But I could still have taken a couple of pictures and shown.
I'll say for Robles, you took 5 damage earlier. Let's make it 3 instead, because your camera, since your camera lens absorbed some of that impact, but that means you're not going to get a good enough shot from a distance to let him decipher those things.
I'll try my best to explain how they look then.
Murray, from that, I mean, you suspect that it's ceremonial, but you probably could have thought, that's what you would have assumed, the way that they're set up around all of the door frames anyway. It's not normal for this region. You can recognize that right away.
So, was all you saw in the village 2 women or what?
There were people moving around. Well, not moving around. What was there?
Yeah, you saw a handful of people. I mean, it didn't look deserted. There were, occasionally there were a couple of, you saw a couple of men who came out to do chores or things, but it's not crowded. You didn't see any children. You didn't see any weapons.
All right then, let's get ready. Get your equipment out. You lead the way, Rubles, and hopefully, under dark, you will be able to lead us. I'm not the best at sneaking, but hopefully if most of this village is, well, at bed, it'll be easier for us to get to the temple. But if it's nighttime, let's go.
Which of you has the worst stealth skill?
I have 10%.
All right, 10% does it, because it's not going to get lower than that. So, in that case, then, Zinsenko, why don't you roll stealth? I'm going to give you a plus 40 bonus, because you've got help from Robles picking the path, and you're going in at night. And what you're after here, more than anything else, is not fumbling, but if you succeed, then it's very good for you, and if you fail without fumbling, it's less good.
I believe that would be 100, which is a total fumble.
So you're making your way through the, around and heading to the temple. You're going through the sickly grasses, and as you're going, like Zinchenko, at one point what was it that got hurt on you earlier? Was it your ankle?
My left wrist.
You're going along. You manage to trip over just some hole in the ground, and when you do, you land the butt of your gun first, and somehow or another you've forgotten to set the safety on it correctly, and it pops off, and there's this enormously loud thunder crack of a gunshot that echoes up into the night all around you. And there's you hear a couple of the goats around, sort of bleating an alarm, and you see lights from lamps increase in the houses, especially in the big head woman's house that's nearest the temple.
We need to move. Go.
You get to the temple. So the letters that are carved around, Murray, you recognize they're an old debased form of Hindi, and Hindi and Urdu are close enough that you can make do. They describe, you're kind of looking them over, and they describe an ancient priest who has lived under the ground forever and knows the ways of the stars and all the worlds and the future.
You see the sleeper?
Doesn't say that much.
No, that just is one. And does it point any way towards the temple, or is that just what this says on random buildings?
That's the recurring pattern around the structures where that text is.
Yeah, it's not it's something that I think is immediately helpful. So, and we're rushing now.
Yeah, you're rushing. So the temple, there's a pedestal inside, and an ancient-looking golden statue of a dragon on the pedestal. It has ruby eyes. And Murray, you recognize it, actually. The design of it it's a statue of an old sun god called Zun. It's related to the Hindu god Shiva, mythologically.
Zun.
You don't see anything else. You don't see anybody in the temple.
So Shiva, who is the god of what?
I mean, Shiva's the one of the primary Hindu gods. Has a lot of aspects. Generally is regarded as a god of benevolence and protection, and associated with time and creation, and on the flip side, associated with evil spirits and ghosts and destruction.
I've got my weapon ready, and while I notice Murray just looking at the statue, I'm like, Murray, focus. Ellis, statues later. I'm looking for any entrances, any tunnels, any doors, and I'm really trying to work out. I'm going to have to guess here, because we need to find, if he's being held somewhere, where he could be, because we need to get out of here now. I'm treating this now as a extraction mission.
Yeah, no, you don't see anything like a tunnel or a door or anything like that in the temple. I mean, it's a very simple place.
Yeah, I go up to the statue instead and examine that.
Yeah. So, right, I mean, it kind of confirms, like I said, that's part of your recognizing it as an old statue of Zun. I mean, Zun is a god that, as far as you know, hasn't been worshipped for 1,000 years in this region. But looking around, there are the buildings, like Shinko and Robles, as you're looking around, there are the buildings, the houses, and then the cliffs are not far off. I mean, the only thing that you see that looks like a pathway that you haven't seen, the village itself being so small, is it looks like there's it's hard to tell when your night vision goggles don't allow much detail or color, but it looks like there's the beginnings of some kind of a really steep path that leads up the cliff face.
At this point, I say, well, any ideas where we go?
There's nothing in here. It's just the statue. We could go up there, or I don't know. These texts indicate some kind of ancient priest supposedly living underground.
Underground? There's a well outside.
You hear a woman, what sounds like an elderly woman's voice, call out, "Hello, who is there?" in Urdu.
I look to Murray, I look to Rubles, I say, all right, cover me. I'm going to try and ease this. If things look bad, we need to defend ourselves, but let me just give this a go. And I'll step out, hands held up, and in Urdu, broken Urdu, my Urdu isn't good, but 40%, I know a bit. We're here for the stranger. We don't want to hurt you. We just want one of our own, and then we'll leave this village alone and never come back.
Okay, so you hear the same voice says, "Oh, I see," and an ancient woman comes kind of shuffling closer. She's followed by a young man who has a lantern, and they come close enough to see you and you to see them, and she's kind of bent and withered, but she says they don't look all that alarmed. She kind of looks you up and down and nods like she understands, and says "Oh, that is fine. I'm Badar Bahan, and you're here for the other." She doesn't say American. She says the word she says is Navaganaktuk. It's a bad pronunciation, but it means newcomer is what it really means.
I lower my hands. I made sure my gun was put away. I try and smile. I lift my night vision goggles up so I look a little less threatening, and I just sort of look to the temple and say, "Yes, we've come to collect him and take him away from you. We don't want anything from you. We don't want to harm you. We simply want our man, and then we'll go."
She nods and kind of laughs and says, "Oh, yes. Come to my house. I am being a bad host. Bring your friends."
I kind of give them a little signal saying, "Play along." And yes, I'll follow.
Yeah. I'll walk after.
So they lead you into the larger house, and there's a she's it takes a few minutes for the water to start boiling, but she encourages you to sit. There's a little table and cushions. I mean, it's all old and kind of shabby, but she says that we will bring tea and you can tell me what you wish to tell me, how you came here and who you are.
I have to fight a great deal of impatience and also suspicion, but again, I'm able to focus myself and rely on my training. We have come here to collect the one who came here. Not much to it than that. We think he wandered around in this area, lost. We're simply here looking for him. That's all. Didn't even know this village was here.
Oh, I see. Yes, well, he came a couple of days ago. He's sick and had no water. He seemed lost. He said he came seeking wisdom. So we took him to the temple to recover.
And where is he now? The temple doesn't seem to have anywhere to have someone to recover. It's quite small.
She looks kind of confused, and then she says, "Oh, no, the temple," and she sort of gestures upwards.
Wonderful. Thank you for your tea. I haven't taken any. Is it okay if we go and get him now? We really don't wish to bother you anymore.
Oh, it's so dark. It would be hard to climb. If you wait till morning, I can send some young men to guide you.
I kind of look to Murray.
I shrug. If he's not going anywhere, then that's, I guess, fine. Yeah, and I look at how you both are injured.
I also, using my human skills, is this genuine? Are they going to really let us just stay the night, or do I sense anything, especially from the young man? Any signs of something amiss?
Yeah, give me a roll. You can get plus 20 on that. It's all kind of calm.
So, 80. So if you gave me plus 20, I'd have 100%. And then I get a 98? But is that still a fumble?
If your chance is 100, then the only way to fail is rolling 00, in which case you would fail and fumble. So a 98 is a success if you've got 100% chance.
Yes, I do. 80 plus the 20%.
She seems genuinely not very concerned. The young man doesn't look especially friendly. He's hard to read. I mean, they both are hard to read. Their body language, their mannerisms aren't familiar. They're not familiar even to your experience of dealing with a lot of people in the region. But he clearly is taking every cue from her. The name she gave, Badabahan, by the way, if you speak Urdu or Hindi, it means elder sister.
All right. My gut says that maybe actually they will honor hospitality. They seem to not care we're here. Very well. All right then, we'll wait till morning.
She kind of points to all of your bandages, the two of you who are hurt, and says, "You should let us help you with that. That looks very painful, and somebody did not do a good job on it."
We'd appreciate the help.
Of course. So she, rattles off some instructions, and there's a young woman who was serving the tea and bringing out little snacks, and she runs off, and the old woman kind of waits patiently and watches all of you, and says, finally she says your friend came seeking wisdom, and when we told him we were taking him to the temple, he seemed very, very glad, as sick and as exhausted as he was.
He had an idea that he would find something out here.
Oh, yes. Well, he found us, and I hope in the temple that he has had time to pray and to.
Can I communicate with her? I do have Hindi.
Yeah, you can then. I mean, it's sort of, like I said, it feels a little clumsy because it's not exactly modern Hindi, but it's close enough.
I try to ask her about Ghati, if she knows what that is.
She kind of laughs and looks around and says, "This is Ghati."
This village?
Yes.
Or this valley?
Yes.
And I see these writings on your walls. It says something about a priest, an old priest. Is that right?
Oh, Baba Jan. She says, as a name, the word translates more or less to revered old man. But she says, yes, he sleeps in the temple.
And is that with whom our friend is?
He is our priest. He is a servant of higher masters still, yes.
And he sleeps, you say?
Yes.
Does he never wake up?
Oh, very, very rarely. He serves masters who are themselves priests of even greater gods that we don't know anymore.
How long has our man been up there?
Oh, 2 days, 3 days? Something like that.
What do you people usually get from the priest and from the gods? Because we've heard, I've read legends about immortality, about reaching some sort of state, near-death state. I try to sort of describe these things to her, see if she thinks there's any truth to all these things.
She kind of nods and says, "Oh, yes, you have read great things. Yes. We here are with Baba Jan, and that means that we can live forever."
Ah, well, that is most interesting. But worry not, we wish for none of that. Simply to get our friend. Are you sure we can't go now? I know it's dark, but, well, I tap my thing. We can see in the dark. It shouldn't be a problem for us. You don't need to give any of your men to us, or send any people if it's just up the mountain.
We won't stop you if you wish to make the climb now, but it might not be very safe with it so dark.
I look at Sachenko questioningly. Like, you sure you want to do that?
Sort of give him a look, and I switch to English and say, "Well, you tell me, Murray. Maybe we go to sleep and everything's fine. Maybe we go to sleep and in the night they kill us all." I smile as I'm saying this. I don't give any indication I've said anything like that, and I give Rubel a look as well.
I get really nervous and I stand up immediately. Well, fine, we're going then.
I nod approvingly.
A couple of other women come into the room. They bring some supplies with them, some bandages and pastes, and a small opium pipe, and one of them looks at you standing and says in the same language. He says, "Sit. We will help you with your hurts."
All right, switching back to Urdu. Yes, thank you. We'll accept this, and then we will be on our way. We don't want to impose too much, but we will accept this.
Oh, no, she kind of shakes her head and says, "No imposition." And she says, she sort of starts taking apart your bandages and hands you the pipe and says, "Here, you should smoke. It will help with the pain."
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't smoke. I have, and I sort of tap my chest, laughing, bad lung problems.
Okay, she looks like she doesn't quite believe that, but she hands the pipe over to Robles instead, and says it will help.
I don't understand what she's saying, so I'm just, trying to politely decline.
Yeah, she's like pressing this, the pipe towards you and kind of, pointing at your head, like at where you're hurt.
I just shake my head and try to just say no in Pashto to see if she understands though.
I'm leaning back, reclining. I'm saying, hey, it's no worse than morphine. Morphine's an opiate too,
I just glare at you.
So they, they do their best to piece you back together. So, I'll tell you what. Each of you get, say, 2 hit points back.
And I'm sort of going between not being sure if I'm supposed to be nervous or relaxed in this place, because Tzichenko is doing his best at making me nervous, but these people seem really nice and not very harmful.
The one of the nurses says, has elder sister been telling you about Baba Jean and the temple?
She's been telling us that you're getting immortal because of the Baba Jean.
She says, oh yes, Baba Jean is light and darkness, and earth and water, wind and fire, time and timelessness, life and death, the great dragon of truth.
I look around. Do they have any electricity here?
No.
And I wouldn't notice any sort of disturbances either. Is there any way for us with our equipment to measure if there's any kind of activity here?
Yeah. I mean, with your electronics, with your night vision goggles especially, if there were things that would interfere with that kind of camera.
With equipment, yeah.
Yeah, then you'd think you would notice it. You haven't seen anything like that so far.
Yeah, okay.
After they finally have seen to us and Murray's had his chat, I sort of get up and I, give a respectful little bow and say, thank you very much. Now, we best be going. We're going to go up to the mountain and then we'll be heading out. Thank you for your hospitality, though. We are greatly honored.
You have come close to the home of the sleeper, so even if everything goes poorly for you, then you can rest easy in the bosom of Baba Jean.
I pause, still smiling, and just remark, why would things go poorly?
Well, it's very dark out there, and you're going to climb a mountain.
I guess we'll have to take our chances.
Yeah, they don't interfere with you.
Very well, then. I lead us to that pathway going up. Although I am going to be careful this time and move cautiously. As we're out of their earshot, I remark, I know how you're thinking, Murray. Think of it this way. We don't really have time to be staying with the locals who maybe don't want their immortality, whatever beliefs they have, to get out. Need I remind you that the villagers very nearby consider this a cursed, evil place? Rubles, lead the way, because they need to be very careful now.
I'm probably gonna still fall behind, even when they're moving slowly. I'm gonna probably move even slower.
Sinchenko, I've been thinking. Delta Green's standing orders are deal with the situation, collect intelligence, save lives, end the threat, whatever it is. Is this a threat?
I don't know. All I know is we need to get Ellis. If we can get Ellis, and this seems as benign as maybe they're making it seem, I see no reason to just leave and report. No need to do anything drastic.
Very well.
So the cliff face looks intimidating more and more the closer you get to it. You can pick out through night vision. You can pick out the path that leads up. It kind of switches back and forth, and in some places it's say 2 or 3 feet wide, and in others it's less. It looks like some of these goats might have a great time climbing up it, and the 3 of you, you kind of get this sinking feeling looking up and up and up into the darkness.
Well, there's really no way back now, is there?
But let's take our time, climb carefully. Not going to be in a rush this time. And do our best to be safe.
I'm huffing and puffing, otherwise keeping quiet.
All right. Roll. Each of you roll athletics again. You can get. You're going to get a plus 20 on this, between helping each other out and taking your time and being as careful as you can. It would be a greater bonus, but for the darkness.
I actually roll 31 again on the athletics roll, but this time with the bonus, I actually make it.
42 under 50%.
Yeah, so 31 under 50.
So 004.
You spend a good bit of time. The night kind of grinds along as you're climbing, but you manage to make the ascent without any catastrophes. You finally reach the top, this peak that overlooks the village on one side, and you can see the mountainside sprawling down on the other. It's airy and stark. There's kind of this dizzying emptiness of sky all around, contrasting with the claustrophobic valley underneath. And not far away, there's this uneven crack in the limestone, where the limestone kind of rises further up to the peak of the mountain, and this uneven crack that's about 2 meters across and 6 high. And there are some ancient statues, Hindu statues, standing broken and defaced. And within that crack, you can see human scale steps carved roughly by hand, descending.
I begin moving forward. Again, in the night, this place seems deeply ominous. I feel very unhappy about how the situation is going, but I just remarked to the others, we go in, we try and get Ellis out if he still can come. We don't do anything else, okay?
I'm really winded. I'm sort of stifling, coughing, and I nod at you. So tired after this climb.
So the steps kind of descend unevenly between sheer walls of uncarved stone. You very quickly lose sight of the light of the night sky overhead, and as you're going along, you realize that the quality of the stone has changed. It's changed from limestone that must have been sheared apart in some convulsion of the earth however many millions and millions of years ago, to this strange greenish black stone. Any of you have geology by any chance as a science skill?
No.
The kind of comparing your notes between each other. I mean, that it doesn't look like bedrock. It doesn't feel like bedrock. This stone is cold and kind of damp to the touch. But at the same time, it leaves when you touch it, it leaves your fingers dry, as if it's kind of sucked all the oil from the surface of the skin. It has a very weird texture.
The further down we go, the harder it will get for us to ask for extraction. Is this wise?
What do you suggest, Rubles? We exit now? Technically, this would count as a mission failure.
I know. But if we can't get the extraction, these are risks we have to take under consideration. 4 agents lost, versus 1 agent lost?
Well, at this stage, all we're doing is walking down a staircase. We need to at least get some confirmation on Ellis. Hell, he could even not actually have been here the whole time. This has been a massive waste. I say we at least get visual confirmation. And then if we need to retreat, we retreat. Murray, what do you think?
That sounds fine, George.
Come, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. And I just sort of muster some good morale and start heading a little quicker down the stairs.
All right, so you're heading down these stairs, and they just keep going down and down and down. At another point, you realize that you've passed a couple of cracks in this strange black stone. And what's strange is you realize that the cracks are all are consistently very straight, and then you find there's a place where there's a joining of two of these seams in the stone that are clearly constructed. There's no way that this was just that it's a product of tectonic movements. You don't have to be a geologist to piece that together. And this would make these blocks just unimaginably vast, 100 tons each. Somehow, this deep beneath limestone cliffs. And as you're, that in some, it's as if in some forgotten time, something shifted and revealed the gap overhead in the limestone that was ocean floor in the Mesozoic, and opened a way down here. So each of you needs to make a sanity roll.
Because it's impossible that something has been built down here like this.
33.
I managed to pass as well.
10 under 55.
Maybe all of that I said, you can kind of dismiss. After all, there are places that you've seen that at the ocean floor, for instance, that look like these long straight lines that everybody comes up and says, it's proof that's Atlantis, and it's no, it's just something shifted and the stone moved and it cracked all in a line like that because it's stone, and when the grain goes a certain way, that's what it looks like. And you can tell yourselves that enough to not lose sanity points as you're going down deeper into this. And then suddenly the stairs end, and you're facing this vast chamber with walls and the floor shaped in these long, curving, kind of spiking designs that seem to fold into each other in strange ways that as you follow them with your eye, you start to wish that you hadn't, because they kind of start making your brain hurt. Does anybody have any art skill?
Yeah, I have painting.
Photography.
Alright, so each of you attempt a roll on those, please.
No, 46 and I have 40.
Okay.
Yeah, I roll 51 over 20. I'm not very good at painting.
You get the feeling, the instinct, that there are certain insights that you could come away with these strange patterns that just are eluding you.
I am, however, very captured by this. It's fantastic. Something like this, it has somehow been created. I mean, out of all the things that I've seen, and all the weird things, the strange things, many of them either violent or just hard to understand, but it's not often that I come by something that is so purely artistic.
Right. Yeah. And Murray, it's even more interesting for you as you go, as you're stepping into here, because you realize that your night vision goggles are picking out these baffling patterns in the rock that where it's like the something in the stone is reflecting the infrared beams of your goggles in unexpected ways. And with your history skill, you start to pick out symbology as you're moving through this chamber and into another. There's symbols that remind you of stars and supernova and what must be meant to look like living things flying between them. The passages of deep time, and you have you find an image that looks like must be the Earth itself, but with the continents merged, the famous shape of Pangea that the geologists have speculated on.
And traveling, it seems almost like between stars.
Robles and Zinchenko, you notice Murray's voice growing breathless, sort of describing these things, speculating, thinking about these things. He's captivated by this sense of awe and excitement and even hunger, and even if it's unwitting, it sounds like he's almost glorying in the conquest of some mythic things traveling between the stars.
I have been, the entire time I've been in here, not even trying to focus on any of this, gritting my teeth, if you will. I've seen things, and in particular, I've seen what these sort of things can do to people, and I've suffered at the hands of those people. I see Murray, and I know he has this habit of sometimes getting lost, and I just go up to him quietly and just squeeze him hard on the shoulder and whisper, "Murray, focus. Ellis, don't get lost in this. We're here to find one of our own. Focus."
Murray, give me a sanity roll.
That is 40, yes, sorry, under 56.
Like, you didn't even realize exactly to what extent you were losing yourself in this material, in this narration. It's kind of startling. But you come back to yourself again then.
So I get a bit, okay, I get a bit nervous, perhaps, from that I'm getting lost in it.
You pass beneath an opening some 30 meters tall from one chamber to another. There's the air is thick with these strange smells of acid and mold and rot. The proportions in this other chamber are really strange. It's like the angles of the floor and the walls are kind of dizzying, and you're coming close to this new great gaping doorway, and Zinchenko, you find yourself touching a wall that you realize from the shapes protruding out of it should have been far, far over to your right, which triggers a new sanity roll for you. And all of you hear a voice coming from ahead.
I'm afraid I get 96 over 55.
All right, so that's going to be 1 point lost from your sanity score from the unnatural.
I kind of just start sweating heavily as I kind of just notice this unnatural geometry. And then, yes, I stand deadly still as we hear this voice.
So it's a man's voice that's in the distance, sort of echoing. It sounds like a man screaming.
Screaming words or screaming in pain?
You can't tell. It could be either, it could be both.
Come on, George. Let's go.
Rupels, forwards. You need to go forwards. Quick.
I don't know about this.
Rupels, remember the mission.
Yeah, still. 4 lost agents or 1 lost agent. I don't know if this is actually worth it.
We don't leave a man behind until it's confirmed. Please.
Okay. I'll go. I'll go.
So as you begin to come closer, you realize that the voice is singing, but it's so cracked from strain or misuse that there's almost no sense to it. You find the singer in one of these huge chambers. A Caucasian man is kneeling in the black darkness. There's no light beyond what you've brought, the infrared lights of your cameras, and but he's kneeling nude before this angular black stone slab that's as high as a barn, and there's a shape atop the slab, and everybody please roll alertness now.
26 out of 80.
54 over 50.
86 over 20.
So, let's see, I believe, Robles, you succeeded and the other 2 failed, is that right?
Yes.
So, Zinchenko and Murray, you keep your eyes focused on the man, and Robles, you find yourself looking up and focusing on the shape. And the shape that only you are focusing in on is it's large as a hill. There's bulging, scaly flesh that seems alternately gray, black, and green, streaked with white veins, or the other way around. There's this polypous riot of pulsing slime. You see hints of its bulk that seem to overlap with other parts of it that shouldn't be there or aren't really there, that fade into nothingness along impossible curves and angles. And the man sitting there is singing and clearly trying to awaken this thing. And Robles, that's a sanity roll for you, please.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
77, and I have 55.
Matching numbers, when you fail a roll, is a critical failure. Which means instead of losing a D10 for sanity for this, you're going to lose the flat full 10.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I have a breaking point of 48. That kind of gets me under that.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 different things. The breaking point actually is... So what you'll need to do is subtract your... what's your current sanity score after losing those 10?
45.
45. Okay. So there's a couple of things here. One is you can, if you want, project some of this trauma onto one of your bonds. The way that'll work is you roll a d4, and that will reduce a bond, but it'll also reduce the sanity loss.
I think I'll actually sacrifice my bond to my daughter.
So roll a 4-sided die, and in an ongoing game, you really see where this takes shape, because you explore the details of what that change in the bond looks like between operations.
So I roll a 3, so that makes me a 5 with my daughter.
Right, and then you still lose 7 points of sanity, but it's not the full 10.
So that's plus 3, then that brings me to 48.
All right, and is that your breaking point?
That is my breaking point.
So you're still hitting your breaking point. All right.
I am.
All right. So what you do with the breaking point is once you hit that point, that exact point of sanity or below, then subtract your power from your current sanity score, and that becomes your new breaking point. And I'll tell you what that all means in a moment.
Yeah, 36 then.
Okay. So when you hit your breaking point, that comes into play usually it comes into play after the operation, after the scenario. That's another thing that it gets explored between adventures, because after you hit your breaking point, that means your agent is developing some new mental disorder to cope with all of this trauma and all of this damage. So the agent's handbook describes lots of possible disorders and which ones are most likely to come from what kinds of trauma, and but that's something you would explore in these what we call home scenes that get played out between missions. At the beginning of the next game session, we'd say, okay, so you hit your breaking point, so you're developing a new disorder, and what shape does that take when you go home and find yourself with this new strange tic or bad habit or whatever it is. And in the meantime, because you lost so much sanity at one go, Robles also suffers what the game calls temporary insanity, which is a temporary, complete losing of your shit, so to speak. So, Zinchenko and Murray. I'll tell you what, actually, Robles, give me a stealth roll.
17.
So Murray and Zinchenko, the first you realize this is that Robles is not there anymore. Like, you're focusing on this man, you're deciding that it's Ellis, and you're kind of deciding how you're going to approach him or deal with him, and you realize Robles is gone.
Well, first of all, I do a bit of a double take. Is this actually Ellis? Does he even match the description?
Yeah, once you sort of pace around to see him from the side, it's Ellis.
We saw him in the photo. Yeah, That's him.
Rubles.
What?
Rubles!
I look back.
No sign of her.
Why is he singing? And I look up there. Is it just him there? There's no other person that I can see?
Just Ellis. And whatever is on top of that building or slab or whatever it is that it's probably best not to look at.
I need to go. I kind of try moving forward really quickly and just whisper, Ellis! Ellis!
He stops singing. He kind of turns and looks up at you. And he smiles, this really weird smile. And he, in this kind of croaking, broken voice, he says the villagers brought me to the sleeper. They brought me and for a moment, only a briefest of moments, it awakened and it touched me. It touched my mind. He looks I mean, with your good human skill especially, he looks some weird mix of helpless and fascinated and filled with horror and joy, kind of all smushed into one or bleeding into each other.
I kind of have to take a deep breath, and I just smile and say, "That's great, Ellis. Come, you've got to come with us now. Come with us and tell us all about it."
He kind of nods and lifts he has this ancient knife in his hand. You realize his body is covered in cuts, the front of it, and and so is the knife, and he staggers up, standing, and he looks relieved, and he says, "Blood will awaken him," and then he tries to stab you.
I will meet him in combat, going straight for an unarmed attempt to grapple him and get him down, and I just go, "Murray, get him!"
Make an unarmed combat roll.
60%. 41.
You divert his knife, and you can wrestle him down to the ground. Murray, what do you do?
I say he's gone ape shit, and I take out the plastic handcuffs that we have with us. Hold him down, hold him down.
I will. Don't cut him. No blood, no blood.
Sure. And I try to put the plastic handcuffs on as he's holding him down.
Okay. Well, what do you? What about the knife?
I kick the knife away.
All right. Roll alertness, the two of you, please.
67. Over 50, so.
45. No, I fail.
You hear other voices near you. Ellis is sort of crying out, "Blood will awaken him," and you hear other voices, young men's voices nearby, singing in Kali Ghati's strange version of Urdu, and they if you understand the language, it sounds like they're saying basically the same thing. Blood awakens the sleeper, and
shit.
One of them suddenly, it's like something snaps. As you look around, you can see a few of them nearby. How they got so close, so quietly, you have no idea. But one of them seems to snap and rushes at you, and his face is like ecstatic with joy. Rushes at you with a long sort of skinning knife of his own.
I shout, flare in English to Murray, and just quickly reach for a flare that I have and just sort of throw it in the air, shielding my eyes as then the flare goes off like.
Alright, what is your dexterity?
My dexterity is 10, so 50.
How about you, Murray?
Dexterity. Hang on. 10, yeah.
So Murray, the young man with the skinning knife is coming at you as Zinchenko says that and fumbles about looking for his flare. The man is there with his knife. What are you doing?
I'm gonna try and pull my gun and shoot a warning shot. I don't know if he's like in my face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
Well, maybe I'll try to leap to the side then. Get out of his way.
So you can make a dodge roll using your dodge skill.
Yeah, I'll do that. And I succeed. It's a 16 under 30.
You barely manage to duck aside from him as he lunges at you, and he's like shouting in incoherent joy and pursuing you. Zinchenko, you get your flare out and light it, and send it. You said you were tossing it where? Just onto the floor somewhere?
Onto the floor, sort of at them. I'm hoping that them lacking eye protection that we have, it's going to at least give us a few seconds, and then as soon as I do that, I just grab Ellis and move forward and say to Murray, "To the stairs! We need to get to the stairs! Rubles, where the fuck are you?"
Both of you give me luck rolls. In this case, that's just a 50% chance in Delta Green.
46.
All right.
90.
90. Okay, that is a failure, which means when the flare goes off, your night vision goggles catch the full brunt of it without your eyes closed, and you're dazzled and blinded for a moment. Zinchenko, you start hauling Ellis, dragging him away. He's clumsy. He's not quite dead weight, but close enough that it's awkward. And Robles, you have come to your senses, realizing that you must have lost your senses. Whatever it is that you saw back there that sent you over the edge, you're having trouble remembering, and you're not sure that you want to, but you're looking around. You're still underground. You're near the stairs, not far from the stairs, and through a couple of these enormous gaps or doorways, you see in your night vision, you see the sort of moving like lights of living people, and you hear shouting in that direction.
I call out for him. Zinchenko.
Rubles! We need to get to the stairs.
Zinchenko, you're dragging Ellis. So give me a strength roll. Strength times 5, I should say.
36 under 50.
Dragging him along. And Murray, in your blinded condition, does it say on your sheet how many armor points your body armor is good for?
6.
You feel people grabbing you, and you feel a sharp knife hitting the chest plate in your armor, and being deflected off of that plate. You hear these people shouting around you and singing around you. As you're kind of blinking and slowly getting your sight back, you realize that you can see that you're surrounded by these three insane villagers have you in their clutches, hacking at you and stabbing.
I scream out for Zinchenko, Robles, George, and I try to get a hand free to draw the sprinter out of one of my smoke grenades.
Make a dexterity times 5 roll, and Zinchenko and Robles, tell me what you're doing hearing all that.
I look to Ellis, and I look to Murray, and I try and go for my gun, trying to get it out, and I'm going to point it in the direction of these men, but I'm just going to wait a few seconds. If he can get that smoke grenade off, he can get free from them.
I'm trying desperately to find my bearings to get to where the others are so that I can assist them. We need to get out of here.
Yeah, so Robles, you can find your way back to them. You follow the heat signatures, and you can find them. Your instincts are telling you that going in that direction is a terrible, dangerous idea. But it's not stopping you if you don't want it to.
No, well, given that my bond to my teammates are greater than those to my daughter, I think this is pretty important to me. So I'm really fighting with myself to actually be able to get to where they are.
Murray, what happened with that dexterity roll?
49 under 50.
So you pop the smoke grenade. and drop it because it instantly gets really, really, really hot. And in your with your thermal vision, you can you see it sort of light up like a little star as it clatters along the stone of the floor, and smoke billows all around, hotter than the air. And in the night vision, it's this strangely lovely bright cloud billowing all around you.
I try to get free, try to get away.
Murray, a villager's hatchet clatters off of your helmet, and then you take a point of damage as a knife sinks into into the Kevlar, but slips between your deflective plates and stabs into you. The smoke, as you're sort of recoiling away and pulling away from them, and the smoke that's around is as it dissipates, it loses heat, which means it's not as much of an impediment for you as that coming right out of the smoke grenade itself. Your pursuers seem not hindered by it at all. And in fact, you kind of realize, as far as you know, there's no source of sight in here. There's no source of light in here, I should say.
They shouldn't have been able to see me in the first place.
Zinchenko, Ellis, you've been dragging him along by his arm, and he looks up at you with this insane look in his eyes and says, "You should kill me or yourself. It will awaken him."
I'll be damned if I awaken anyone, Ellis. And you, shut up. You failed everyone, especially yourself. And I'll see, Murray, I think, breaking free, and then again thinking about the environment. I'm gonna light another flare, and again call to him like, "Cover your eyes this time, Murray! I'm throwing another one!" At the attackers, hoping this has more effect than the smoke grenade.
Murray, let's see. You're trying to get away from them, right? So why don't you make a dodge roll?
A flare in a smoke cloud? How am I gonna see anything now? No, I failed. 31 over 30.
That hatchet that was hitting you on the helmet keeps hitting you on the helmet, but is kind of clatters off of your shoulder, and somehow has not managed to dislodge your the straps or anything like that. And as you kind of stumble away from them, and make another luck roll, and then Robles, you're getting close now, you've gotten close as you want to by now. So tell me what you're doing.
I want to try to help Murray. Is Sechenko still struggling with Ellis?
It doesn't look like Ellis is struggling. His hands are bound behind him, and he's kind of watching you can see it. I mean, it looks especially strange through your night vision goggles, but he looks like he's kind of looking around in that greenish tinged light that you see everything in. He's looking around, watching. He looks happy. He looks insane, and the three villagers who are swarming around, who have been swarming around Murray, they keep chasing him and trying to subdue him as he's trying to run away from them. That flare flashes out, and Murray, actually everybody make a luck roll this time, but Zinchenko, you get plus 20, so it's a 70% chance for you.
I fail on 74.
I fail on 88, of course.
You see the clattering, and your eyes are drawn to it instinctively, even though he just said don't look at it. And before you have remembered to close your eyes, it flares out and blinds you. Murray, what about you?
I actually succeed on my test. 22 under 250. What 22? That's a critical success.
I'll tell you what. Give me a. You can make another dodge roll and get a plus 20 on it because the flash has distracted your assailants.
18.
18. Okay. Okay. So this is interesting because what happens is you succeed at your dodge with a roll of 18. One of them succeeds at an attempt to grab you and pin you down, but his roll is a 25. And the way we do things in Delta Green is if 2 rolls succeed, then the higher roll wins out if they're in opposition. Unless it's a critical success, right? That breaks the rule. But in this case, it's 2 successful rolls, neither one's critical, so the higher of the dice roll that both succeed is the one that wins. So in that case, you start to pull away from them, and then you find your foot grabbed from behind, and you slam down on the ground, and these guys, one of them can't find you for a moment, and another one is scrambling up from having grabbed your leg, and the other one, jumps down on you, on your back, as they're trying to hold you in place.
I'm trying to fumble for my gun to just shoot them.
Give me, make a dexterity times 5 roll, and, Robles, let's see, you were blinded, weren't you? Yeah, so you're blinded, and Zinchenko, what are you doing?
I look back, I see him surrounded on the ground. I need to try. And I need to try and at least delay the blood for a little longer. I will fling Ellis aside. I barrel forwards and just sort of try and drop kick this guy on top of Murray.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Make an unarmed roll.
15 over 60.
All right. So what's your objective? Are you looking to hurt him or are you looking to move him?
I'm looking to kick him off, proper just sent him sprawling. Hopefully, because he's so caught off balance by being on him that my kick could just sort of send him sprawling away as he's just a crazy naked man.
Right, yeah. No, that works. And so one of them goes sprawling off. Murray, did you make your dex roll?
Yeah, 12.
All right. Your pistol is in your hand.
Just fucking kill them, I shout. Shoot them, and I start firing wildly at them, anyone who's near.
All right. So you can take a shot at a couple of shots at the one that's scrambling up the back of you and has been holding you down. It's going to be a straight skill roll. Normally you'd get a plus 20 because he's so close, but you've also been knocked down and pinned down, so it's very awkward. So that balances out to just a normal skill roll.
No! Don't you remember? It said death awakens the sleeper. Don't!
97.
Okay, so the in your night vision, the gun kind of flares out brilliantly as a few shots pop off, and everyone's deafened by the noise, and you manage to not hurt anybody with all of that.
I shout out, "They're trying to kill me!"
Run, Murray, run! And I kind of just go up to him, grab him by the shoulder, and do my best to fling him behind me forwards to the stairs. And so now I'll be the one they're catching up on. Run, Murray!
As you're doing that, the villager who he was trying to shoot and who was kind of clambering up and had knocked him down plunges a knife into Murray's leg. That's 4 points of damage after your armor.
I scream out in pain and stumble. I try to get up, but no. I think most of all, I'll try and shoot them still.
You vaguely hear. Actually, Robles, you hear this better than them because you're closer. But you hear not far away from you, Ellis singing out again and screaming screaming, "Yes, yes, awaken!"
I'll stumble over to where he is and just hit him over the mouth with the butt of my gun.
All right. Yeah, you knock him down and shut him up for a moment. And let's see. Okay, so Zinchenko, you were trying to knock this other one off of Murray. Well, you knocked one of them off, and then there's another one that's just put a knife into him. And then there's a third one that's over there trying to catch up with you. You've gotten distracted.
Yeah, this one, who just put the knife in him, this time I just bring both my hands down as hard as I can on his head, really hoping I just knock him out.
All right, yeah, go ahead. You can roll at plus 20, because he's entirely devoted to Murray. And Murray, you can roll your pistol.
21. 2 damage.
All right, yeah. So you crack him in the head, and he kind of grunts and starts to lose his grip. And Murray, what did you roll?
I roll 82.
All right, so another series of gunshots pop off, and the villager is kind of knocking your well, you know what? He's not really knocking your gun aside. He's just making it so awkward by clinging to you desperately, despite being pounded on by Zinchenko. And let's see, Robles, what are you doing now?
I'm just trying to push everyone out of the way. I can't really see what I'm doing still. I'm still blinded, I think.
I'll say your vision is coming back enough that you can kind of make out. It's maybe not great details.
I just want to get out with my colleagues and this Alice, and if anyone comes in the way, I basically kick and bite them.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's just a brawl over there, not far away from you, maybe 10 meters, where Murray is lying on the ground and kind of twisting himself around, and you can see his injury, kind of the blood is brighter than as it's leaking out of his leg than the rest of him, and he's kind of twisted around and is trying to shoot this insane villager who's trying to murder him while Zinchenko is pounding on him, and there's another couple of villagers who are rushing at them, having been dislodged earlier.
How far from the stairs am I?
Not far. I mean, if you were to run, you could get there in, I don't know, a couple of turns. It wouldn't take all that long at all.
How close am I to the others?
Yeah, they're maybe, I don't know, about 10 meters away from you. They're not far either.
I just yell for them. George! Lincoln! Get on your feet! We need to get out of here!
So, your first one, he's being too distracted, doesn't manage to do you any harm. Another one is trying to tackle Zinchenko, and he kind of runs into you, Zinchenko, and you shove him away without him getting a hold of you. And another one is trying to come out and bring his axe down on Murray. And he, let's see, Murray, you're down on the ground, so he actually succeeds that time. And what does that do? Okay, so his axe smashes into your body armor and doesn't do you any harm. So, Murray, now tell me what you're doing amid all of that craziness.
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get up and out of this. I've just been stabbed in my leg. It hurts as hell. And I've been trying to get loose a couple of times. I have given up. I'm lying there. I'm trying to shoot still at them while they're getting at me. I can't think of anything clever in this situation. I think I'm panicking.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Before I resolve your action, then let's let Zinchenko take an action.
Looking at Murray, can I not just try and force him up? Just try and bear some attacks just to get him up on his feet?
You could try it. I mean, his main difficulty is one of these attackers is sort of clinging to him like a rabid dog. and keeps trying to hold him down and stab him. And the others have come back up, but that one is his main source of grief right now.
Right, this time, instead of going for a blow to the head, I'm going to try and just grab my arm around his neck and try and choke this guy out. 22 over 60.
So roll your damage, and it's doubled, so 2d4 minus 2.
4 damage, as you just see me sort of grunt, go down into a practice stance, thrust out my arm, grab this guy by the neck, and just squeeze with all the weight of my body armor on his throat. And I do 4 damage.
Yeah, alright, so so you hear, he sort of starts gasping and then stops gasping as you close him off. And Murray, you're not being held down for this instant. You've got the one with the axe is sort of striking at you and hitting you with the axe, but not breaking through your armor yet. And the other one is being choked, and the third one has sort of stumbled away and hasn't come back at anyone yet. So you have a chance to get up and do what you want instead of being pinned down.
I'm shit at combat.
Yeah, this is a bad scene for you.
Yeah, it is, and he's choking him, but the other ones could bear down on him. Is there any way I could get a good shot now that one of them is? Oh
yeah. I mean, you would get the plus 20 now.
Yeah, I'll try and shoot then at the guy with the axe. I think we need to kill these guys and get rid of them if we're gonna be able to get out of here with our objective.
Okay.
Fuck! It's 52.
All right, so that misses even with the bonus.
Yeah, I have 20 base.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you. Yeah. I mean, your hands are shaking like crazy.
Yeah.
You've got this tunnel vision that's thoroughly sinking in, and so you start blazing away, and the bullets are kind of going everywhere, and he's right there. So as you're sort of recoiling away from him, that throws your aim off, and then he's in your face again, trying to get at you, and it's just this desperate, horrible mess. And Robles, Agent Robles, what about you?
I'll draw my gun and fire.
Okay, who are you shooting at? Or do you even care?
I really don't want to, actually, but I need to get my colleagues, my friends out of here. So I'm trying to get the one that's attacking Murray.
Sure. If you want to roll at a minus 20 penalty, you could say if you do hit, it's going to hit him in the leg instead of just wherever.
I only have 40, so
yeah, it's risky.
It is risky. No, I'm just going for the general vicinity of.
Okay.
And I miss 67.
Yeah. All right. So everybody's ears are completely ringing and half deaf with all of the noise, and there's flares, and Ellis is still singing and encouraging you all, and all right. So with the new turn, Zinchenko, yours is struggling but helpless in your arms, and the other two. Let's see. Murray, you managed to ward yours off, and the other one is coming at Zinchenko with a knife, and instead stabs his friend that Zinchenko is holding. Yeah, so Zinchenko, the one that you've been choking is kind of writhing in your arms, and then he lets out this weirdly pained and yet gleeful scream as one of his fellow villagers plunges a knife into him as you're holding him. And what are you doing?
At this point, I let him go to be stabbed, and I just give Murray this look. Run now, or I'll kill you myself, Murray! And I will, well, I guess the guy I've dropped is being stabbed by the other guy. The third guy, who I assume is the third guy, the one with the axe, who's still quite...
Yeah, he's in Murray's face, trying to have at him.
I charge forwards and again try to, this time, grab this guy by his axe hand and bring it about to sort of try and twist it or break it.
Okay. All right, so you can roll your unarmed, and Murray, what are you doing?
I'm trying to limp out of there.
Finally fail, 86.
Well, nevertheless, you sort of pull him away. So Murray, you start limping and making some distance, and get close to where Robles is. Right. So with a new turn starting, Zinchenko, you're so one of your opponents who took to stabbing his companion by mistake is just leaning into that mistake and keeps stabbing him until that man kind of sags and stops moving. And Robles, you can see on that huge slab the shape stirs, and there's like this flap of its substance that unfolds like a claw or a wing. And in fact, there's this pause in the chaos because everyone realizes that. Even those of you who weren't looking up, who didn't know exactly what was up there, you kind of feel in your brains something is awakening around you. Zinchenko, the one with the axe, is trying to wrestle you to the ground now that you've grabbed him. So you can try to dodge and get away from him, or you can fight back, wrestle back with him with your unarmed combat. Or...
I will fight back.
So make a roll of your own, and then we'll see what happens.
37.
All right, so the two of you wind up on the ground, grappling and wrestling, and he's, he like drops his axe in all of the scrambling, and manages to get a pretty good grip on you, like holding you down on the ground.
Yeah, I'm just grabbing a hold of Murray as soon as he gets close enough to grab onto, and I just start pulling him towards the stairs and up the stairs.
So Ellis is on the ground, and now behind me, Zinchenko is getting wrestled down.
Right.
Meanwhile, we feel something strange, big is stirring. Well, I'll want to know what that is. I'm gonna look. Do I feel that it's from that direction?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'll look. I'll turn around and see what's going on.
Sure. All right. So give me a sanity roll as well then, as you take in what Robles saw earlier.
46. I succeed still.
Succeed. Okay, so you lose 1 point. You kind of take everything in there, and however your brain copes with that, so you don't take the full shattering impact of it that poor Robles did. We don't know. Maybe you're carefully in denial. Maybe you're compartmentalizing like crazy.
I'm putting it down there with all the other things that I've seen. Okay, so I lose 1 sanity, and due to my fugue states...
Yeah, so with your fugue state, so what you need to do is make a follow-up sanity roll for that.
Yes.
To see if that kicks in.
19, that succeeds.
Okay. So you're, you can kind of... It's awfully tempting to just start zoning out, but you manage to keep your focus.
Wow. I see that, and suddenly everything else seems very small. The Zinchenko fighting the villagers seems very small, and I just watch this shape as I feel Robles is kind of tugging at me, and I start stumbling with her, I guess. upwards.
Zinchenko, what are you doing?
I need to get out of this situation. I'm going to do everything I can to try and get this fucker off me. I no longer care if he dies because the blood has been spilled. Fuck. I just need to get out of this situation. What do I roll?
Yeah, so unarmed is probably your best shot for throwing him off of yourself.
22, critical.
Oh, yeah, so away he goes. Very well, yeah. There's it's probably some kind of judo move, that you catch him exactly right, and he thumps down onto the ground beside you and tumbles away.
And I just sprint after the others now.
You reach the stairs. You hear Ellis crying out and screaming and singing. You hear the villagers, the 2 surviving villagers back there, singing as well, just lost in whatever weird communion they're in. And you reach the stairs and start limping up. And, Murray is injured. He's leaving blood behind him with every step. But you slowly make progress and rise and rise and rise. And you see the stones change behind you or around you.
Yes, and I kind of quickly go to Murray's side, grab, one of his arms and just start helping him move quicker.
Sure, yeah.
I try to help as much as I can as well.
My mind keeps just repeating, I gotta get out.
Yeah. You reach the top. Eventually. It feels like hours, but you reach the top. And as you do, you kind of come into the open air, which seems impossibly crisp and clean compared to where you've been. You look around and it's quiet. You hear some singing echoing up to you from the village. It's dark, it's well into night now, and but there are bright stars overhead in the black sky. You see sort of the black mountain sinking away from you on one side, and the cliff descending down to the village, to Ghati on the other. But then other than that, you're alone up there and have to decide where to now and what can you do.
I pant heavily as I sort of look around, and then, can we call extraction from here?
There's nowhere for them to pick us up where we are.
So what you would do is essentially climb down the mountain, right? Out, not into the valley, because the valleys like that are really awkward for helicopters because of the way the air currents work. But it involves a long hike down the mountainside. In fact, let's go ahead and roll for that, another round of athletics tests, because you're all kind of battered and beat up, and there might be room for one last disaster.
53 out of 30.
21 over 30.
22. I succeed again.
And that's a critical success for you. So I'm going to say that Murray, you actually managed to catch Robles and keep her from taking a bad fall as she loses a grip and starts to slip in the darkness. And then you can kind of settle in again and keep your way. And after a few hours, you reach safe ground and can start reaching out for making your call for extraction, which is ordinarily it's kind of that kind of sending a helicopter out here is usually kind of a big production because there's so many risks attached to it. But whoever has sent you out here has enough sway that you get a confirmation and instructions, and you kind of sit tight for a while, and the night kind of crawls along until this very, very quiet special forces helicopter descends, and a team kind of rattles out of it and takes up guard positions around, and then hustles you aboard, and then takes off again.
And I just look outside the helicopter, looking towards the mountain, and I'm already writing my report. Sergeant Ellis, MIA, Site Ghati, must be contained. Send multiple teams, must be contained.
As my leg is kept at a high angle and they are wrapping it, getting my body armor off to get to the wound, I pant and I try to say, well, I don't think there's any risk of Taliban's getting to him. At least, I think we should be fine.
We'll be fine. I'm glad I saved you, Murray. You made that really hard for me.
Me? I had 3 of them climbing over me, and I just leaned back and closed my eyes.
And I kind of just give Rubles a look. I just say, Rubles, you with us?
I'm actually sitting, just staring out of the helicopter, looking at. I've taken out a small photograph, a very, very worn photograph from my inner pocket, and it's a picture of my daughter. You've seen me showing it to you before, and I'm actually tearing it into tiny, tiny, tiny pieces, and I just let the pieces fly out of the helicopter.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played the adventure Ghati for Delta Green. Ghati is the creation of Shane Ivey from Arc Dream Publishing, who is also our handler for this operation. The music is from the Cryochamber collaborations Cthulhu, Yog Sothoth, Nyarlathotep, Shub Niggurath, and Asathoth, and was used with permission from Cryochamber. Check out their wonderful dark ambient at cryochamber.bandcamp.com and their YouTube channel. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, and David for their generous support. And we would of course like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show really would not be possible. If you want early access to our content and to hear raw versions of our recordings right after we've done them, or join a campaign of Cult Divinity Lost as a player, please check out our new higher level tiers on Patreon. It's a great way to get more Red Moon role-playing in your life, and to help us keep the show going. Thank you again for listening.